Good evening, folks.
It's Midnight Veg After Dark.
And Rob has the slide whistle. Oh, and it's the very last moment. We had two boys just pop in right here. We got with us tonight, Open Airlock Policy. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Nice having you. We also have with us another guest with us tonight, if I could talk. Jeff from the Geek Blend. How you doing? He's muted. Off to a fancy start.
Here we go.
There he is.
Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, no problem. Glad to have you back. And of course, Rob, you can take the rest of them.
Yes, as always. Joining us is our resident physician, the man with the prescription who has a prescription for what ails you, the whitest man in show business, the script doctor.
Good evening, everybody.
And of course,
Hey, Script.
And of course, we're joined by your favorite YouTube harpy. She is an Emmy, an ESPY, a Tony, a Bammy, a BAFTA. She's an Earl and OBE, which makes her an earlobe. Miss Mecca Random.
You have to hum my music on your thing.
Dum 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 dum.
I could probably install it on here myself or just play it through the microphone, but
So anyway, actually had quite a few things happened today, didn't we, Tom?
Few things. Battinson caught the bat flu.
Oh God.
Uh,
I mean, I'll try to eat a bat. I tried to eat a bat. You know, no one told me not to eat a bat.
I put it in the microwave. And we also have a Bond trailer. John Boyega calls out Star Wars and Disney as racists. And what else was in the news besides that? There was something else too. Oh yeah, new binary characters on Star Trek, or non-binary characters, or whatever.
I don't care.
since they have no personality outside of who they bang and what they identify as.
Yeah. So Robert Pattinson himself got the COVID. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about the Bond trailer. I didn't really watch it because, of course, I'm not a huge Bond fan, and not necessarily like I don't like it. I just never got into it. Hopefully someday I will, but until then, Rob, why don't you tell us what you thought about it, and then we'll go around the horn.
Still think it's gonna. I don't know. It's. I'm in this weird place with Bond right now, in that I want to believe that it's going to be good. But at the same time,
Yeah,
Did we just lose Rob?
I think so.
So someone got to him before he could vent his opinion.
They silenced him before he could complain about Lashana Lynch.
There he is. He's back. All right.
MGM is trying to silence me.
Shut up, Rob! It's Universal, isn't it? No, I thought MGM had very little.
It's Universal. Universal/MGM. I want to believe that this is going to be good, but you know what? After all I've read, I'm not sure, man. You know,
I've never thought of this, but they probably got the ability to use Chucky's name and some other shit for Child's Play because of that fucking Bond deal.
Probably. You know
Because of
what?
Universal. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. My bad.
You know what the deal breaker was for me in this trailer? When they put up the title card, everything will change. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you really shouldn't. That's, if there's, listen, everything changed with Star Wars. Did it get better?
No.
Everything changed with Star Trek. Did it get better?
No.
Okay. What makes me think it's gonna be better with James Bond?
No.
They could mean they were going to get some James Bondage.
There's a chance the Broccoli still care about the property.
Well, Barbara supposedly still cares.
Ooh.
Barbara still supposedly cares about the property. But
Sorry, I'm making a mess over here. But anyway,
yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Like I said, if Bond is saddled with a kid and they make him a deadbeat dad, I mean, why do you think I'm going to want to see that? The reason why Bond is he does what he does isn't because he's trying to save the world. It's because he's a professional. This is his job. It's his 9 to 5. And they want to make it another stupid revenge. What's he after? Revenge. Oh, again. Not another revenge plot. For God's sake, how many freaking revenge plots are we gonna have to sit through?
who's going after the revenge?
Some Safin or whatever that guy's name is.
They're always after revenge. Why don't they go after something good like money?
That's what Goldfinger wanted.
He's like, fuck your revenge. I'm just wanting money. Oh, Jeff, did you watch the trailer? You a Bond fan?
I haven't seen the last one. I did watch the trailer, and I don't trust anything Hollywood's doing, and like the whole thing with things are going to change. I'm like, just like Rob was saying, it's like everything else changed. Nothing was good, so I don't expect this to be good either. I'm very hesitant. I mean, some of the trailer stuff looked good, the action shots look okay, and the thing with the revenge plot too, it's like, why do we have to do that again? Why isn't Bond just doing stuff because he's supposed to for his profession? Why does that have to be revenge again? I don't understand why they do that again. It's just, let's move past that and get back into Bond. What Bond used to be, it was much better. I don't know. It looks okay, but I just don't trust it.
I keep saying this. People have asked me what kind of Bond movie would I make. I said I would make it full of as much violence and sex and drinking and gambling and smoking, and
So you'd have Quentin Tarantino direct it.
pretty much, yeah. I'd put as much like Bond is like all kinds of over the top actions with like killer satellites and like submarines and nuclear weapons and all that kind of stuff. And it would either be hailed as the greatest Bond movie ever, or it would be hailed as the worst thing in cinema since Ishtar.
Well, at least with Quentin directing, it would have a great soundtrack.
Probably,
Yeah.
No, I think we've talked about that before. I think it'd be best if they did get somebody like that and just take it back to the 60s, set it back. And if the time period's problematic, easy. Indiana Jones the shit. Take it out of this time period. Tim, are you a Bond fan? Did you watch the trailer?
Huge Bond fan. Haven't watched the trailer. I saw it on your thumbnail, and I was going to watch it, but I got busy with work, which I just finished about 30 minutes ago. So, no, I haven't seen it, but I didn't even see the last movie, actually. Just a lot of franchises coming out over the last decade. I love Skyfall, but I need to catch up on the movies and watch the trailer for sure. But as Jeff said, it's really hard to trust stuff these days because almost everything is woke. So it's kind of go in with cautious optimism. But it's not a theater movie for me at this point. It'd have to be something really, really big. But yeah, I've loved Bond. I have some of the Fleming novels and stuff. So yeah, I'll watch it probably tonight.
There you go. Script, my man. What do you think?
To be honest, I spent the time between shows making dinner because that was more exciting for me than taking a look at this newer version of Bond.
All right, Mecca, what do you think?
Because I only have liked the Casino Royale.
It looks stupid and woke, and you've got the stupid it just really just reeks of woke all over it with all the. It's like, oh, here's your new 00, which we knew about Lashana Lynch being 00, and we knew, it's like, it just looks stupid. It looks like it's going to be one of those movies where they're just stand back and let us do it. It's just so So cheeseball 1970s feminism,
Yeah.
basically, is what it feels like.
And like I said, I didn't watch it. I have no real opinion on it at this point. We've done enough reporting on it. I mean, I know that much about it, but outside of that, yeah. What do you guys think out there? Let us know in the comments here, and let's move on with some other news unless Rob wanted to say anything else about it.
The only thing I'm going to say is the people who say that, oh, well, Bond needs to be updated. Bond needs to be updated. No, he doesn't. The character worked for 50 years. It worked for 50 years. Now, all of a sudden, everyone wants to update Bond. I'm like, no, and I've heard idiots say, oh, they should kill Bond in the first 10 minutes and then have someone else say, oh, they should do a spin-off movie with Idris Elba, or they should do a Moneypenny spin-off movie. Like, no, you do not understand the fundamental appeal of James Bond. He's not, like I said, he's not doing this because he wants to make the world a better place or because it's morally right. It's his job. This is his job. This is his 9 to 5. He is not. It's not like it's an altruistic motivation he has. He is trying to preserve the last vestiges of British colonialism and the British Empire. He is trying to preserve Britain's status and place in the world. And for those who say, well, but if you had Idris Elba, you blend in Africa. No, it's not. No, it's not about blending in. You're supposed to, when he goes to Hong Kong, and when he goes to Africa, when he goes to Harlem, when he goes to Japan, he's supposed to stand out. When he goes to India, he's supposed to stand out like a sore thumb. What's Whitey doing here? That's part of it. That's part of the appeal. That's part of the appeal. He's a foreigner in a foreign land. And remember at the end of For Your Eyes Only, what was the last line of For Your Eyes Only? Was it Jeff?
Rob, get out of the theater.
No, he's 007, 007, what are you doing in there? Keeping the British end up, sir. That's what it is all about. Keeping the British end up.
It seems like he does it more for adrenaline too.
Well, like, as Robert Meyer Burnett always says, here's a guy who doesn't know if he's going to live to see another sunrise. He says, if you go back and read Moonraker, the original Ian Fleming model, he expected to be dead by 45, and 45 was the mandatory retirement age of double O's. And it's just like it's the same problem with Star Trek. You're making Bond now for people who don't like Bond. And it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. It really is. I'm done.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. All right, let's get into some news. If you haven't heard the news, Pattinson got the bat flu. And then I closed it. God darn it. Oh, well. I sent you the Vanity Fair one, but
let me see. Pull it up here. Pull it up on the full laptop.
Blue. Robert Pattinson. They had to shut down the Batman, folks. Shut her down.
Good.
Shut her down. So, what's going on here?
Robert Pattinson is said to have tested positive for the coronavirus, causing.
Are you positive?
I'm positive.
Is that Tommy Chong? Oh, never mind.
Man.
It's not Tommy Chong.
Oh, what's Tommy Chong in the news for?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Cinematographer Robert Richard Beeks
Damn
breaks.
it. It's never Tommy Chong.
I know, right?
I know.
I never get in the news anymore, man. Except for when I get pulled over on cops. Hey, Raging Rhino.
G'day, guys.
So,
From the line down under.
Hey, Rhino.
Hey.
Rhino.
Hey, Mega. Hey, Rob. How you doing?
hey,
Script.
Rhino.
Hey.
Good to talk to you. Good to be
Good
here.
talking to you. He's talking to Raging Rhinos is talking to us from the future. It's tomorrow over there, isn't it?
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Correct. It's currently 20 past 9 in the morning.
2000. Yeah.
Can you tell me who's gonna give me? Can you give me like any kind of like good sports score so I can make some bets? So
I'm not as good. I'm honestly not as good as a sports almanac, to be honest, but I could try.
Oh, and we also have another guest with us, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. How you doing, sir?
Hello.
RMB.
You invited me, so here I am.
Did because before we get into, since we haven't started this story, we'll get back into what we were just talking about just before you popped in here. The Bond trailer. Did you get a chance to check it out?
Dude, I jizzed in my pants, man. Come on. That
Oh,
was
you
a
liked
great
it?
trailer. I loved it.
Rob hated it.
What? Come on, how can you hate that trailer?
No, I told, as I said before, seeing the title card, everything will change. Oh no.
Well, you know he's gonna die.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that they're doing it to appease the idiots and say, yeah, you should kill Bond in like the first 10 minutes and then make Idris Elba a spin-off movie. I'm like,
No. That's not gonna happen. No, it looks like Daniel Craig made a real James Bond movie finally after Casino Royale. It's like, it's bookended by. I think we're gonna get 2 good James Bond movies.
In the words of Vicini, you'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
No, I think it looks good. I mean, look, it's beautifully shot. I love the action scenes or what we see of them. It doesn't look. It's not like the cross-cutting mess that Quantum of Solace was. I mean, and Cary Fukunaga, man. I've got hope. I've got Shawshank Redemption hope for this.
I hopes. He's got...
It's so funny because I literally watched that trailer again before I saw your stream, your invitation to come on the stream.
We're going to be stuck with another revenge plot. I mean, how many freaking revenge plots are we going to do? Everything is a revenge plot. Everything is trying to be the Dark Knight.
Well, I mean, not if you have a villain that's more like Karl Stromberg or Hugo Drax and they want to kill a bunch of people to, eradicate, to sort of cull the herd. I like those stories. And if that's what Rami Malek's villain is, if that's what he wants to do, is set off some genetically engineered disease that's going to knock off a quarter of the world's population, I'm in. Come on, it can be cool.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting to reserve judgment, but I'm not hopeful.
Look,
really,
I did not like Skyfall at all, and I really was disappointed in Spectre. So Skyfall, you're exactly right. It was a movie that tried to ape The Dark Knight entirely, and it's a movie where Bond repeatedly fails. He doesn't succeed the entire movie, and I agree with that. But I did like Casino Royale a lot.
I love Casino Royale.
Yeah,
I love Casino Royale. It is probably one of the more true to form Bond movies that we've gotten in recent years.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to, and as you always said, the Bond series is always having to apologize for itself.
Well, that's the thing that I don't understand. Like I think one of the great backlashes, the Bond character, and we've talked about this before, he's always on the edge of death. Mm-hmm. And so he's a complete sensualist. That's why he knows how to what temperature to drink the best champagne at. That's why he wants to sleep with the best looking, the most attractive, the sexiest women in the world. That's why he likes to go to the best casinos and the best places, because at any one minute or one moment, he could lose his life. So in the rest of his life, he's going to unrepentantly drink it in. And I think we need a character like that now more than ever, when everybody's trying to apologize. I mean, you can't even lust after a pretty girl these days. Mm-hmm. Which is, who wants to live in that world?
Well, certainly not I.
We live in one now, and it's like you can't. It's such a strange place to be. And look, I understand everybody but we should all have the ability to lust after each other. But now we're living in this weird sexless culture where everybody's watches porn instead of hangs out with one another. It's so weird.
I think Rob's afraid that the next bad guy is going to be like, I'm afraid I must hashtag me to you.
It's a new Victorianism that we're going through right now, almost. Yeah,
but the Victorians were dirty bastards, man. They just lived behind closed doors. I mean, I feel like part of the modern age is we're bleeding out our humanity from everyone.
Mhm.
Everybody would rather be outraged than be sexually aroused. And what's
God.
up with that?
Angry sex.
By the way, I don't know if Robert, you've met Raging Rhino, Open Airlock, Geek Blend. Those guys hang out on the Geek Blend podcast and some other
I have
places.
not. Hello, gentlemen. I
R&B.
didn't.
I didn't think you had.
Awesome.
You're all on this side, sir.
Say, of course, I'm sure they're in awe
Yeah,
of the great
ple-
R&B.
Yeah.
the pleasure is
100%.
As
all
we all
the way out.
are.
I'm not anyone to be in awe of. Let me tell you.
I talk to you on a nearly daily basis, sir, and it's still like I wake up every morning. I know Robert Meyer Burnett.
That's so weird.
Well, we think that about you, Tom. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Aw.
well, the thing was, I was the big fan of the Midnight's Edge channel. Like I've told you, I watched your videos for a long time because I appreciated that they were always edited, and I liked Rob's narration and stuff. So I always watch your videos. So when I come on your channel, I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to talk to these guys again.
Oh, whatever.
No, dude, it's true. It's true.
Nice.
I mean,
You know we love you, though.
what's funny though is as I've gotten deeper and deeper into YouTube, there are YouTubers that I follow, not even on completely unrelated to movie channels, and they are like celebrities to me. Like if I don't know if you know who Davey 504 is. He plays the bass guitar. He's got this great channel. Like if I met him, I'd be like, I wouldn't know what to say. I'd be totally tongue tied. I'm like, oh my god, you're Davey 504. It's so weird.
Nicholas Myers, really like. Now you just recently talked to him again. You said on your thing last night.
Nicholas Meyer wrote me after I reviewed his Star Trek SETI Alpha 5 scripts, and we had an exchange. We had an email exchange. He on one hand, it was very funny. On one hand, he didn't say I couldn't talk about this. He was very nice, but he was also very miffed that I reviewed the scripts. And he said, he was like, you were giving me such effusive praise and you loved my screenplay so much. But on the other hand, I don't like the fact that you reviewed them and you deprived people the ability to experience them the first time. And I was going to say to him, I'm like, even I've read thousands of screenplays, and even reading a screenplay has no bearing on watching a finished film. Like when you're watching a finished film, it has nothing. It's reading a screenplay, even though if you know every line of dialogue, it's nothing like seeing a finished film. And what I found interesting when I was going back, nothing. It has no bearing on it. Like, and it was funny because when I got it, the only copyright strike I've ever had against my channel was when I reviewed the Dune screenplay, and I first had a copyright notice, and they blocked my show, so I re-uploaded it again, and then they gave me a strike. Which is funny. Yeah. I get it. But I'm like, it's not like the book hasn't been out since 1965. It's how different is it going to be? And right? I mean, I get it. They own the screenplay, but it's such a strange thing that you can't. I mean, I get it. Look, I'm not stupid. If a studio owns a script, but nobody came after me for doing the Duel of the Fates script for reviewing that.
Yeah, but here's the thing I got to go at with that with. It's like, it's a little pretentious. I think you're right, Robert. I mean, in certain instances with like how they, are so tight-lipped around the Star Wars movies like George Lucas was at the time, and Spielberg is notorious with his films, and JJ and certain other people. At the same time, that's rather pretentious. Like, I remember back when we were all kids, and it's like, it didn't really matter. We knew what the hell was going to happen in most movies before we went into them. It didn't matter.
Well, I think now, I think what they're afraid of more than anything is bad buzz, because somebody can misconstrue, everybody complains about everything now. And I understand that. And so a movie could get bad. Like, I'm mostly enthusiastic about things because I want them to be good. My baseline is, oh man, I can't wait to see that. I hope it's great. And only later, like unless somebody's let me down, like J.J. Abrams has let me down science fiction wise 5 times, 2 Star Trek movies, Super 8, and 2 Star Wars movies. I haven't liked any of those films, and there's nothing in his filmmaking that makes me excited to see anything he's involved in. Nothing, and that's because he's proven to me that there's nothing that he's made that I should be. So he's earned my distrust. But for the most part, most people have not. Like you want movies to be good. And I did do research before I covered the SETI Alpha 5 scripts. I wasn't going to, if they were going to make them, I wouldn't have reported on them. But the last thing Nicholas Meyer said publicly was he turned the scripts in and never heard anything back. And I'm like, that's odd. So
well, and that's kind of what he hinted at when I had talked to him too. Was like, I found it rather funny because like I asked him basically flat out like, what are you contributing to the new show? And that's where he's like, well, we all do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I can't really specify one thing offhand here or there. And it was just kind of sounding like, yeah, you have no fucking clue because you weren't there. And I mean, I'm not saying it like he's stupid. It's like you can't say it, but it's like the moment Brian was out the door, you were out the door, weren't you? Was what I wanted to ask him, and I kind of didn't. I kept trying to have to get around the stupid, like how I could ask him these questions. Crap, it got really like a cat and mouse thing after a while. Almost.
well, and that, like you said, that was true. I mean, obviously he did write the first draft of the Battle of the Binary Stars, and it was all him. It wasn't even there was story credit, but he was the only writer, and he doesn't even get credit for that script at all. And so I mean there was a big it's I don't know. I mean with Star Trek, I don't understand. I mean, have you reported on Star Trek Day yet?
Mm-mm.
So on September 8th, they're doing for Star Trek what basically DC did with DC Fandom. They're putting on a big they're putting on a big event where they're in America. They're streaming Star Trek episodes for free, and then they're doing a 3.5 hour block of panels of all the new Star Trek shows, including Strange New Worlds.
$5 says that means that Star Trek Las Vegas is getting canceled, folks.
Yeah, true.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean
I don't see Star Trek Vegas happening.
Not if this is the case. This is the first I heard of it.
Yeah, they announced it today. Actually, Kurtzman did on his Twitter feed, and then I went to StarTrek.com, and I'm like, "What is this?" And they've got celebrity guests from even the original series. George Takei and Rod Roddenberry are going to talk about the original series, but the other panels, the Deep Space Nine panel, has some great people on it.
Oh my!
And so they've got everybody, and Strange New Worlds has a panel as well.
That's wishful thinking.
Here's the thing, though, Rob. We have, and this is the thing. Anybody who wants to say we never said Strange New Worlds was not going to happen, we'll call them a liar because we have never once said that. And I've said, if anything, of all these new shows they've been talking about, the only one that has a chance of happening is Strange New Worlds, and that's because the sets are already built. They already have the costumes.
Right.
They're going to be doing exactly what old school Trek used to do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's the only reason. Yeah.
I just think it's interesting. They're doing it on September 8th, which is the anniversary of Star Trek's first broadcast in the United States in 66. So I thought that was interesting that they're doing that.
Well, that is interesting. And I mean, well, of course, we did get some other news that kind of overshadowed that. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. We might as well jump into that first, besides the Pattinson news. We'll hold on to that for a minute. The new characters that are supposed to be in Discovery Season 3, not that anybody really cares about, but
Gosh.
Mm-hmm. Token 1 and Token 2.
Mm.
Is it like Thing 1 and Thing 2? Can we just call them Thing 1 and Thing 2?
Them. Call them them.
them.
I think he might be upset with that.
They wanted to.
You
And
mean
the
that
non-binary
thumbnail's not-
character hangs out with the gay dudes.
Yeah, like
I mean,
that's
that was
not-
part of their press release. And
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
know that
really?
they're going to be the surrogate child, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my!
Yeah, I mean,
They're going to look in that character as the surrogate child. That's basic. I think that's the plan.
I thought it was the
Rob.
same character in the thumbnail. Is that not?
No, they're two different
Okay,
characters.
All right.
And I wrote on because of course Glad had to speak out on this, and it's like, you know what? I don't care about any of the characters they got on the show now. I really don't care about Poochie 1 or 2 and what's between their legs. I really don't.
I care about
So,
what's between Tilly's legs, though.
well, I used to
Only
care about
slightly,
Tilly.
slightly less than her chest.
I used to
There's a-
care more about Tilly, but
There was a child between her legs. I mean, that was she. She had a child.
I was going to say you better finish
season
that out.
one, between season 2 and season 3.
phrasing.
She was pregnant, but that's why she looks
Was
so
she?
big. Yeah.
That's what we've been curious about because I've never heard about her having a kid, but she still kind of looks like she's been pregnant for like. Is she elephant pregnant or?
I read that. Oh, that's yeah. You talk about me. Jeez.
Aren't elephants pregnant for like 2 years?
Yeah. Well, no, that's between they can have one calf per every 2 years.
All right, whatever, Rob. You're smarter than me. Fat Steven Seagal says.
That's not
Chat
saying much, Tom.
This Canadian $2 says, did somebody say porn? Yes, Rob did a while back. He did say porn, or somebody did anyway. Jesse Miller sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thanks, buddy. I have no need for your need of your fantasy women. Riker's beeline. Thank you, Jesse. I was chit-chatting with him in the two a little earlier. Fat Steven Skull sends in another one, says, did everyone see Tom pop out of the ceiling creepy? I'll show that video in a little bit, Fat Steven Seagal. Just remind me again here in a little while. But no, let's jump into this other news here, I guess, then, since we do got you, Robert. I don't think we'll have you for long, so I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about this. Like, anybody cares about what's happening in Discovery Season 3, but like you said in this press release, it's just god-awful. I don't care. I really, really don't care. And then on top of this, how many times now has there already been characters that are non-binary, basically? Star Trek?
We've already had so many different genders, and we've had asexual aliens. We've had the cogenitors, where you have where you need a third gender to release the pheromones, so that
that's what a trip, isn't it?
Produced. We've gone over this before. Trill go from one body to the next. The shapeshifters, the changelings, they go to whatever, because like, seriously,
that Chang sends
Quark transgendered into a woman.
It says this kid will save the show with $2.99. Well, there's two kids actually, but I can see where you could.
So similar, you can't even tell them apart.
They look really, really similar.
They look very, very similar. Miguel Hernandez.
This is the Beard Boys all over again.
Says at least Star Trek Day has a link to Star Trek history. That's very true. Like Robert was just saying, at least it's on the day that Star Trek premiered.
Yeah, and they're doing all of the shows, which I think is nice. I mean, I'm sure that the people at Discovery are like, wait, what's Star Trek Deep Space Nine? I've never heard of that.
Sounds like a porno or something.
Yeah. We were at Star Trek Las Vegas, the casts of the other shows were not very complimentary towards Discovery.
Well, what happened was because they would sit out there and they'd virtue signal, and then you'd have everybody else go, now wait a minute. So you did, like Rob's right. You had this rift going through between, and it really showed, I think, on the Doctor panel. Wasn't that it, Mecca? Because wasn't that where what's his face?
Yeah. John Billings is like, well, I was actually the first character because I was married to, like, my wives had husbands, and we were, I was the first bisexual character, or whatever, or however he said it.
Yeah,
and, we already had that, because they were like, oh, we have the first gay this or bi that or whatever, and
Roxanne Dawson also,
she said, well, we weren't. She said something like, we weren't really, trying to be diverse, we just were. Something
right. That. There was a lot of smackdowns. Like, it was
and the cast didn't really blend either. They didn't really like. They didn't intermingle. No. You have your Next Gen and your Voyager people hanging out because they've known each other, but then all these new people come in, and it's like this little cult. It's like this new cult of like, oh, diversity, and diversity, and that's
and it's like basically like you said, like you had all the old cast members that would come out. They're like, now wait a minute. Basically, we've always been diverse as far as that fact goes. Like they would call them out on it. It was kind of cool. That might be another reason why they're doing this this year, Rob. I don't know. This is the first I heard about it, though. I'm glad you told us about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that was just organized. I mean, I'm sure they threw it together or whatever. I mean, I just, in the future, here's what I don't get. I mean, I read a lot of science fiction. I have my whole life, and when you're in the future, especially 200 years from now, with the kind of medical technology, for instance, if you're trans and you want to transition, you would just transition. It would be nobody would care. Like they would have the technology to probably alter you however you wanted. There would be so somebody who is trans wouldn't even be given a second thought. You're just okay. You are trans and you would like to transition. Yes, you go in and it probably takes half a day. It's outpatient surgery because it's the 23rd century. No big deal if that's what you want to do.
That's a great point too. Go ahead. Sorry.
And so like then it wouldn't be a thing. Like you wouldn't in the 23rd century. Nobody would go around. I'm trans. They wouldn't even say that.
Exactly.
They would just be like a trans woman. If you were born if you were born a man and you wanted to transition, you just would. You know,
That's
there
where I
wouldn't
was
be,
like,
and so somebody would then think of themselves, well, I'm a woman, and you wouldn't even think. I bet nobody would even. It wouldn't even become an issue. Like even if you said, like if you met some hot girl in a bar, or you met her at Risa or whatever, and you were looking for Jamaharon, and you hooked up with some hot person, that you were a guy, and she was a girl, and she told you, I was actually born a man. Nobody would care. People would be like, so. The
Exactly.
technology would have progressed far enough that it wouldn't even matter. Like nobody would care. Like
No.
like when you
You'd
have
be indistinguishable. Yeah.
nobody would care. It would not even be an issue. Now, the only thing that I would think about, because I'm interested in storytelling, if you were born if you're born a man and you transition to a woman and you were going to become the host for a Trill symbiote. Now, Trill symbiote has been, as we've seen, we haven't seen a symbiote that has been in a trans person's body before. We've heard that Trills can be men or women. Now, there might be, if you could tell a story about the fact that when a symbiote, a host is being chosen, a trans person in the 23rd century, nobody would care, but a Trill symbiote might. So there might actually be, you could tell a pretty interesting story where a Trill symbiote, the actual slug, could say, look, I can't bond with somebody who's a trans person because the DNA doesn't work. Like you were born a man, but you've transitioned to a woman, but your DNA is still that of a man. So as much as I think we would be perfect together, I can't do it. I physically can't do it. Now that's an interesting story. If you had a Trill host that wanted to be a host, but because they were trans, they couldn't do it because of their DNA.
but that's too clever for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
here's
I mean,
the other
And similar, well, and kind of, I wonder if they would even have maybe a stigma because, if you remember in Deep Space Nine, wasn't it sort of very, very difficult to become a host? Like Jadzia had however many degrees she had before she was even joined, and they kind of had that whole episode where I guess they had lied to the population that most of them could actually join, but they had so few symbionts to go around that they had to kind of weed out just the regular normie people. And that was how Ezri kind of became to be kind of a really interesting character. Here was a girl who didn't necessarily even want to be joined, and here you go. Well, she was just the closest person who could save the symbiont.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, it's again, it's all about storytelling. Are you going to tell a great science fiction story? And even when we first met the Trill when you met Odon, the character of Odon in Next Generation, I think it was the host, and Odon was a dude, and he got killed, and they removed the symbiote from him and put Odon into the body of a woman, and he shows up as her now, and she's like, she says to Beverly, "I still love you." And Beverly's like, I can't go that way, and it was heartbreaking, even though, Odon's like, well, look, man, I've been man and women. I mean, what does it matter if we love each other? Who cares?
Right.
Who cares what gender I am? And that's when you start to get into really interesting sci-fi storytelling. And I think that's what the science fiction in modern Star Trek is so bad. I mean, that's where it falters, I think, the most, is that it's as if we're going to tell a story about an evil AI. And I'm like, okay, now you're writing at the level I would write in the 6th grade if I had to write a story about an evil AI. Actually, probably better, because the evil AI stories that have been, they're writing at a level that is so rudimentary that people are like, have you ever read a science? Have you seen the movie Her? Her has a much better look at what would happen with AIs getting achieving sentience than anything you've done on Star Trek Discovery. And that the idea of synthetic life, they don't even have synthetic life. You're talking about machines that are anthropomorphized, but that isn't even synthetic life. An android is not synthetic life. An android is a machine. It's an android. And yet they don't even know the difference.
No,
they're calling Data and he's synthetic life. No, a replicant from Blade Runner is synthetic life. I mean, it's you've manufactured life using body parts, but it's not real. It wasn't born, it was manufactured.
Right.
So that's synthetic life. That's real flesh and blood life. And I can see somebody, because then you're talking about having a soul. But they never even understood, they're talking about anthropomorphized humanoid. Like, what if you're not humanoid and you've built a robot in the same? What if the Horta decides to make an android Horta? From Devil in the Dark, and you've got the Hortas, the silicon-based life forms, but they decide to build an android Horta. Would anybody care? Because it doesn't look humanoid. They didn't even make that cognitive leap about what they were talking about in terms of their synthetic life are basically just androids. And why would anybody care? They're machines. Who cares how you build them? That would be like, what is the difference between an android and, say, a freestanding laptop? They're both machines. Just because one looks like a human
or a
being,
cell phone that talks to you, or a
Mhm.
like
Siri
we're
or
gonna be
whatever.
mad at you. It made no sense. The whole idea that there's the Cthulhu creatures that want to destroy anyone who creates synthetic life. Why? Like,
It's like there's always been these laws created around these things to justify how they work within these universes, and we've always discussed it, we've always worked it out, and it's always made sense at the end of the day, because they introduce something that makes sense, that makes that make sense. If sorry, I know I'm saying make sense a lot, but
no, but you're right.
They create these things, and then when
Context,
they come out,
yeah,
that's right. And now when they come out with how can somebody do a Vulcan mind meld across the universe sort of thing? Like, there's no justification now for how that's supposed to work. So they're now just screwing with the laws of what was created. That's
right.
how
That's something you've never seen.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not a massive Trekkie, but that's that's from what you're explaining. That's
no,
how
but
I'm
you're
seeing
100% right, Raging
But-
Rhino, because that's not anything we've really seen before in this universe, and it's just like with Star Wars too, which I know you're a bit more up on. But like, yeah, it's kind of like the same thing with introducing Baby Yoda's ability to, and Rey actually more so. It's more akin to Rey, all of a sudden being able to just bring somebody back to life.
Yeah,
Without any training.
That's why they released that episode of Mandalorian just before the Rise of Skywalker. Sorry to go off topic, but that's why they released that, so they could justify Rey doing it. It's just a big justification. But instead of giving us context to why can this person or why can this being do that, it's just this. It can just happen. Here you go. Just consume it and accept it.
No, you're right.
No, that's not how it works.
No, you're 100% right. And I'm sure Robert and Script and everybody else here can back me up on this. Like, that's the problem with these writers, is they don't fundamentally understand Star Trek. Like Robert was just saying, they don't fundamentally understand sci-fi. I doubt any of them have ever read
They don't have imagination.
No.
That's their biggest flaw. They're
Right.
writers without imagination, because they are pulling from other sources, but they don't understand the context of what it is. They don't understand the depths of what is being explored in those other sources. They're really just like elaborate parrots.
See, that's how I view J.J. Abrams too. He just takes a scene or a shot from something that he likes and just kind of inserts it somewhere without really a whole lot of context or reason for it to be.
Yeah.
And what was so smart about the ones in the 90s? They were able to come up with allegories, even in the 60s. And that's what I think Robert was alluding to. But now it's just anvilicious and let's throw in this and check a box in real life instead of finding a way to tell a moral story intelligently. And that's gone away.
I
They're
couldn't
not
agree
worried
with you
about
more.
writing great stories. They're worried about more about virtual cycling nowadays versus writing great stories or great characters. It's all about these new characters come on the show. They're gonna be based on, by non-binary or transgendered. Are we going to know anything about their character besides their sexual preference or what their pronouns are versus a good sci-fi story around these characters? Probably not.
But the idea too, it's like it's hundreds of years in the future,
Right?
And you have to extrapolate. Like, we're talking about people that are non-binary or trans right now, but with technologies that, like, one of the things that you read about in the 80s, like in cyberpunk fiction, in things like Neuromancer, when William Gibson put Neuromancer out, technology was going to allow people to modify their bodies beyond, like, not like new tribalism with piercings or things like that, but you could actually have mirrored sunglass lenses inserted into your face, and they would have like Molly does, they would have readouts on them, and you'd literally be able to replace your body with cyberpunk implants and things like that. And if that were the case 200 years from now, if somebody was trans and they wanted to transition, like I said, it would just be easy and they would do it, and it wouldn't even be something that anybody would even care about. But to add that to make that a thing now, to me, is a failure of imagination, because what Star Trek did best, when you were going to deal with a subject like this, you would do that with the aliens of the week that you would meet. And the alien race would be like in The Outcast with Soren, the character that Riker falls in love with.
Exactly.
You tell a story, and so the allegory is that, okay, we've met an alien race, and like Mecca mentioned, Cogenitor, which is a terrific Enterprise episode, Star Trek Enterprise, great sci-fi concept. Not only did they deal with the fact that the society had a third gender, but the third gender was basically garbage. A slave person, a servant class. And so you're dealing with the third gender issue, and you're dealing with this servant class and how Trip got upset about it in 45 minutes. And it's a terrific episode. And what's so great about that episode is when the Enterprise first encounters these people, they're both studying this solar event. And it's like, oh my God, we've come across an alien race, and they're also researching the same stellar phenomenon we are. And it starts out like, hey, how are you? And it's a first contact situation, and everybody's excited because we're all scientists, like, hey, how's it going? And then we find out that they have this third gender, which completely fucks with our sense of morality, and Trip goes crazy. And we understand, the aliens are like, what's your problem? Like, this is how our civilization works. And then we're from the outside going, oh my God, this is terrible. This person is a person. They're smart, and you're treating them like they're dirt. And they're like, but that's just our society. That's how it's always worked. And that's a great Star Trek episode. And it deals with these issues in a very multifaceted way. And remember, those episodes 45 minutes long, in and out.
Oh yeah, it's still one of the most memorable, and the one with Trip is still one of the most memorable ones of Enterprise. But going off of what you guys are saying, as far as like even the relationship part, like I Robert, you brought up a very good point. Like most of the time, these kind of things are the guest alien of the week or whatever deal they're dealing with that week that have nothing to do necessarily with anything on the ship, and that's what bothers me, because I brought up the fact of how in your face, like it's like we don't care if there's gay characters on Star Trek, but why all of a sudden are we like living in like why are we watching like
Star Trek 2020,
Star Trek 90210 or whatever? We got to sit there and watch fucking these gay couple in there. Like, who cares? Nobody cares.
Brushing their teeth.
Yeah, and nobody's like before this. The only times I can ever think of where there was any kind of relationship thing going on is when like Riker and what's her face, Deanna would like kind of have their on again, off again thing, but that was really always in the background from my recollection until the movie.
Jadzia on Deep Space Nine, that was a pretty major plot, actually.
Okay, so there you go. All right, well, that's what I was trying to say. Is like because I haven't seen the other ones, but I'm trying to remember where there's
if a Klingon and a Trill who's been multi-gendered throughout the Dax symbiont has been multi-gendered throughout his life. Worf is marrying somebody who's been a man and a woman multiple times over her lifetime, and it's a Klingon marrying her. Like, if that isn't representation, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
From a science fiction standpoint. Now, they didn't ever have a conversation. Like, Worf never said, well, you've been a dude and you've been a chick how many different times? Like, what do you prefer? And now you're marrying me? I mean, this was out there front and center. Worf is marrying a Trill who has been multiple genders throughout its lifetime. And this was never, because nobody would care in the 24th century. It just is. As a matter of fact,
they cared more that she was a Trill, not that they swapped genders, because it was just an alien species. And what was he? It was the House of Martok that he was like incorporated in by then, right? And Martok's wife, I believe, was the one who just tortured Jadzia with all these trials and tests.
Yeah.
Am I remembering it right?
Well, it's funny. Like, if you go into the Blood Oath, the second season episode where they bring back Kor, Koloth, and Kang from the original series, they had no problem with Jadzia being a woman because they knew him as Curzon Dax. So they understood Curzon's a man, but the Dax symbiote's now a woman. I mean, can you imagine, like, if you really wanted to think about it, do you think that Worf and Jadzia didn't talk about this? Do you think that Worf never said to Jadzia, okay, you've been a guy and a girl for hundreds of years. Like, what got your freak on? Like, what did you like me to do to you? Like, obviously you're marrying a Klingon for the first time. So tell me, what kind of penetration do you like? Do you like femdom activities? Like, what is it you want? And imagine that conversation. Now, In Star Trek, they're never going to have that conversation because that doesn't really fit in with an hour-long action adventure show.
Right.
But if you really want to drill down on the concept, the fact that Worf, a Klingon, was marrying a person that had switched between genders for hundreds of years is probably the most progressive thing Star Trek has ever done, ever. And now they won't say anything, but oh, wait a minute, we didn't even understand that. Well, yeah, because you didn't think about it. But it was there. It was there but nobody they're not talking about their sex life. I mean, if Worf said, sometimes I like to get pegged, they're not going to say that on the show because it's not. And Jadzia would be there
either.
I mean, can you imagine the sex toys Jadzia had? I mean,
we already saw them getting treated after foreplay and stuff. Like, oh, you two have been doing it again, huh? And they're limping into the infirmary.
Yeah, but I mean,
all entertainment's about at the moment. It's so funny.
Well, and that's why I posted that tweet. Like, I don't give a shit about what's between Poochie's legs. I really don't. I really, really don't. And where are these characters coming from? Are they from the distant future? Because if that's the case, then it's even more unbelievable.
Yeah, then they're from 1,000 years in the future or whatever. And it's like we're talking about trans and non-binary characters. It's like
just ridiculously. It's ridiculous how idiotic Star Trek is now.
Right. And then if not, they're people that were on the ship. So how many people stayed on the ship that we've never fucking met before in the first 2 years of this show now? Because remember, like, they had that kind of moment, like, they generally try to do like, we're going to do this thing. Like, anybody wants off here. Let's go. Let's, and even fucking what's her face stuck on there. And I'm like, how the fuck are they going to have a Section 31 show? Unless the Section 31 show is about her starting Section 31 up again, clear to fuck out 1,000 years into the future. Like, where are they going with this? Like, this is where the show should have started out to begin with. And now you've got us to a point we don't care. We just don't care.
Well, they keep rebooting it.
This is the problem. They're not
continuing
it.
Times.
They're not continuing any story. That's the problem. Like, it's just not all about the characters, and nobody cares about the characters.
Yeah. This is like comic books. They just keep rebooting them time and time again. Each half season, each mid-season. Even episode 3 was kind of a reboot because, okay, now we're on actually the ship that the show's freaking named after. By episode 3, we finally see the ship. So that was a reboot. They rebooted again to jump over to the mirror universe. They rebooted it again to jump over and say, oh, well, we're now dealing with the Red Angel stuff, and now they're rebooting it again going into the future. So.
Well, part of the reason why I think they might be doing this virtual thing and might say fuck it with the actual con, like Robert brought up, is because like Mecca, you, I, and a bunch of us, we called them out on their shit last year, and I think they caught them off guard. Like, they were trying to backtrack big time on a bunch of shit like that, like you brought up. First season, Jason Isaac flat out said they had no fucking clue what they were doing with his character.
They were probably the first journalists that actually came in there and actually paid attention to what the crap they said. I mean, they're so used to these little mimics on their team and their little cult reciting back, oh, it's good because it's diverse. And nobody questions them on anything, and nobody pays attention.
Well, and they can't, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we just kind of came out of nowhere, I think, because I don't think they were anticipating us. Oh, they're not going to show up, and then we all showed up all together, and then Gary was there.
Well, what's worse is we were the only ones in the fucking lower decks panel.
Yeah, us in like Trek yards were the only ones there.
So yeah, like I think that we've gotten to this point where.
Oh, that was the other thing with Lower Decks, though, that I had mentioned in chat over during your Midnight's Edge stream about it was I remember Samuel from Trek Yards asking about the uniforms, if these uniforms are canon, and Mike McCann had answered at the panel, yes, they're canon to what this specific ship will be wearing. It's canon to this ship. So when you see the Enterprise, that's their uniform because they couldn't understand, that we know that they're supposed to be wearing pretty much the DS9 uniforms and the movie uniforms pretty much. So they couldn't answer that because I think they knew that would catch them in the 25% different trap. Like that they would say something like, oh, we had to change that for legal reasons. So they had to make that up. And now in this episode of Lower Decks, we had the other ship that they went over to, the Vancouver, where they're wearing the exact same uniforms as the Cerritos.
And so they kept making the joke that it was the same.
In the gray.
Yeah, I was going to say there was that flashback. Well, they're able to do those kind of things, though, because the 25% thing doesn't.
But on top of that, the dates are wrong, too, because when they're talking about Data and Lore and taking over the Borg and the Brother Soon, those uniforms weren't invented in Star Trek timeline yet.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. But Script, you said you had to head out, so I appreciate you coming in, buddy.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk with you all. Yep.
Robert,
Script, can I ask you a real quick question? Did
Sure.
you read anything interesting, and what did you think of it, if you did?
I have read something interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was a better take than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I was very curious to see where it would have gone had it been handled effectively.
Right. I know, right?
Yep.
A very cryptic conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a point where we'll talk off camera at one point to gush over that subject one day soon.
I'm very curious to have that conversation.
Yes, me too. Oh God, the things we could say in exchange.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm
Now you
actually
gotta
on
Yeah.
another podcast to talk about Battlestar Galactica. So when this show ends, please follow my Twitter to find out where I am and watch us discuss Razor, Battlestar Galactica mini movie of Razor. So thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Of course.
Raging Rhino, awesome to stream with you again. Tim, I think this is the first time we've met, so thanks
Yes,
again.
sir.
And
An
the Geek
honor.
Blend, great to talk to you as well, even
You
as
too.
brief as it has been. But
Mhm.
thanks so much, guys, and have a great rest of your show.
All right. See you, Script.
See you, Script.
I love that guy.
The script doctor's awesome. That's why we
Mhm.
made sure we hired him. He won't let me pay him though. Eskimono Phono, speaking of gushing, says saw Bill and Ted 3. My trust in you paid off. Tom, I'm glad to hear that. I've had a few people who had a lot of nasty messages to send me lately, but I'm glad to hear
It's
that.
just that one stupid line. If they just could have went one pass over that one line where they say we're here to back you, I think nobody would care.
Yeah. Well, they have nothing to hang it on, and that's the thing. I don't want to get down that, but Lost Jedi sent in a super chat. Says I like virtue. Lost Jedi, I think, was going to be joining us, but I don't know if he's away or what. But yeah,
I'm not sure.
What's the
I got
matter,
a
Rob?
phone call. I got a phone call I got to take.
Okay, go ahead. DCV Titan sends in a Canadian $2. Says the porno is Deep Space 69. Why am I not surprised on that one? Let me see. I know we got a few more here, I bet. I don't want to miss anything. There's another one from DCB Titan, but that's a newer one. Hopefully I didn't miss any. Fat Steven Seagal says, remember same idiot who made sonar in space? Yeah, that'd be Kurtzman. That's always a fan favorite. Lost Jedi sends in another $5. I'm sure we'll know all about these new characters and not a thing about over half the existing bridge crew in the third season of the show. And that's what I was getting at, is I don't care about the cast that's there now. I don't like any of them. I don't know any of them. They haven't gotten to know any of them. And then you got the other end of it, Lower Decks, where they're shoving these characters down their throat and they're mostly unlikable. I mean, how have you been? We haven't really got a chance to talk much about Lower Decks, Robert. How you been feeling about that at all? Have you been a chance to catch it? Or
Well, I mean, here again, you're turning Star Trek into something that it isn't. Like they're using Star Trek as more of a brand. Like, let's do a comedy animated show. I'm sure they're going to do a Star Trek sitcom show. I'm waiting for Star Trek Judge Judy, where people in the Star Trek universe, have disagreements and they are settled in the Court of Federation Law or something. And I think Lower Decks is getting better, and clearly Mike is a fan of the show. But my question is, they've transposed somebody else's formula, like Rick and Morty, into. I would love to have seen a Star Trek animated show. The idea of making a Star Trek animated show about a ship that does second contact, to me, could have been really interesting, because second contact, the Enterprise goes and rolls up on a planet and they have a first contact situation and leaves. Well, then when the Federation has to show up and send advisors and all of that, that's a rough job. That's not a job that the somebody who's an idiot gets to deal with. I mean, opening up relations with a new civilization is probably one of the most important things you could possibly do. And they make it sound like, well, we have this second-rate crew and this second-rate ship, and we don't take this job very seriously. That is wrong. The premise, I think, is flawed. But I think that dealing with cultural differences is comedy gold. And that's enough. You don't have to make these characters like running around on the ship acting like assholes. And I just don't like it. I don't like it. It isn't a Star Trek themed show. It's something else that was brought over and is put in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah, it's got
and
a Star Trek label.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like about it. And while it gets better, and the creative staff, I mean, the creator loves Star Trek, but I feel like he loves, I was talking about this last night. There are people that are on the inside of franchises, and there are people that are on the outside of franchises, and people that are on the inside take it seriously. Kevin Feige is on the inside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He worked on 13 Marvel movies before Iron Man, and he was a big fan before that. He loved Star Trek, and he loved comic books, and he knew all those things, but he's looking at his franchise from what does it mean, and when I mean inside the canonical fealty of the universe that you've created. But people that are outside of that, they kind of have this hipster, holier than thou. They don't really take it totally seriously. It's always like, yeah, when the Mugatu shows up, I know it was just a white ape with a horn put on it. It's goofy. So they're outside, but when you're inside and you're thinking about it, you're like, no. In the episode of Private Little War, yeah, from a production standpoint, the Mugatu was a cheap way to make a funny monster, but we take it seriously. On that planet, that's what the Mugatu looks like, and his bite will kill you. But if you're outside, you make fun of it, even if you're a creator. But if you're inside, you don't. And what Star Trek and Star Wars need are, and I think The Mandalorian has people that are on the inside, but they have to deal with executives that are on the outside of it all.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to make a franchise work, like Ryan Coogler, when he took over, when he was making Creed, he immersed himself inside the Rocky franchise. Mm-hmm. He was never somebody that was outside going, Rocky 4 was just one montage. No. After another. Ryan Coogler lived and breathed the Rocky franchise. It was real to him. And so when he wrote Creed, he wrote this movie that had canonical fealty to the rest of the Rocky franchise. He honored everything that had come before. He was never outside. It's like, I'm writing a movie and I'm going to direct a movie that's inside this franchise. And I feel now Star Trek is being run by people that are all outside of the franchise. And when you get a guy like Mike, our creator of, he wants to be inside, but he's working in a format that is bringing all this other stuff from outside in, if this makes any sense at all, if you understand what I'm saying. I know it's a little weird, but we don't have people that are running Star Wars. Certainly, like J.J. Abrams wanted to be on the inside of Star Wars, but he never was. He certainly was never on the inside of Star Trek. He was always standing outside, and he looked at people on the inside of Star Trek, meaning the fans and anybody who loved the franchise, like, well, let me do my own thing. And that is the death of franchise filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And I think, people that are not, and here's the problem. There's a lot of fans, or actually there's very few fans that are also professionals. It's really hard to do that because the day-to-day operations of making movies and television is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly political. And the people that are actually giving you money, none of them are inside of a franchise. They're like, if you're a fan of a franchise, you're like the last person we want to work on this show, because we need a professional that isn't so like going to get all like persnickety about one little thing. Mm-hmm. So it's a very weird place to be. And I think that we as fans are now dealing with these long-running franchises, whether it's Doctor Who, whether it's Star Trek, whether it's Star Wars. You're talking they're decades old. So they've become such a big part of pop culture. So the people that work on them have grown up, but it's pop culture. It's not real. Like, to me, there's a real universe. When I watched Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, that happened. That happened in a long time ago in a galaxy
far away. Yep.
Star Wars and Empire happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then and George Lucas, he was not as involved with Empire, but when he came back in the fold, even George Lucas was outside. He never was inside the Star Wars universe. He's always been outside looking in. When he created Star Wars, he created all the stuff, but it was his collaborators that built that original Star Wars bubble that he was always on the outside of. He didn't even know it was going to be successful. And so when he gets back to Return of the Jedi, what he believed was like, well, I'm making a kids film. This is the film for the kids, so we're gonna have the creatures look more like Max Rebo and the Rebo Band, and Sly Snoodles. They'll like it. She'll be like have a long, and it'll be lips on the end, and she'll sing and all that. and so he doesn't understand that. Like, when I watched as a 16-year-old Return of the Jedi for the first time, I'm like, what is this shit? Why am I watching this when I've seen Star Wars and Empire that were so great? Now everything's a joke. You know, the Gamorrean guards, the way they're designed, look like Saturday morning cartoon characters. And, you know, Bib Fortuna is an idiot. I will take you to Jabba now. Like, it was so jokey, and it was interesting to watch. So to me, Star Wars and Empire were the only true Star Wars movies, and everything else has been sort of not.
Don't do that to Robert. I love Return of the Jedi as a kid.
Look, everybody does, but when did you see Return of the Jedi?
For the first time, I would have been maybe 6 years old when I saw it.
Yeah.
Like, and actually remember it for the first time. Maybe even a little bit younger, actually.
See, I saw Star Wars when I was 10 because I'm old.
Yeah.
And then I saw Empire when I was 13. And they were such serious films that literally, and I've tried to explain this to people, there was nothing like Star Wars. There was nothing remotely similar to Star Wars. And as a science fiction fan, I watched a lot of pulp sci-fi, the movies from the 50s and the 60s, and even the dystopian sci-fi of the 70s. When you got to Star Wars, it was so different from anything that had ever existed before. It truly was like mind-blowing. And then when you saw Empire Strikes Back, it advanced everything. And when you got to Jedi, the fact that there was another Death Star, like, you're like, well, wait a minute, why? The first Death Star. And so in my youth, Return of the Jedi I love the last scene, the confrontation with the Emperor and Luke and Vader in the throne room, because it was really new. But the rest of the film did not advance the universe very much, and it did not take us many places we hadn't been before. I mean, we went back to Tatooine.
But it would have been hard to follow up on Empire. Like, because we got a lot of that in Empire, and it was definitely one of the best sequels to ever come. But it's like trying to follow up TLJ with Rise of Skywalker. How do you follow Empire? I mean, again, I get what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, but I was a lot younger when I saw those movies. I just love them all.
I understand, and I don't begrudge anybody that loves the original trilogy. And it's very funny to me because when I've watched all three at once, like during a day, and to me the difference in Jedi is so drastic in terms of even the way it was written and the performances, and there's things in it I really, really like. But I was expecting a Return of the King type movie, a film that got really like epic. Like, I expected to see Coruscant. You know, I expected to see the Emperor was not on the Death Star 2 in orbit around Endor, that you were going to the heart of the galaxy, the heart of the Empire. You know, and that's what we were all dreaming about and talking about, like, oh my God, in Return of the Jedi, are they going to go? And I expected like Leia would have been tempted by the dark side, and Han Solo would have had to have killed her, the woman he loves, because she was evil. You know, it was whatever, some very Shakespearean thing that we didn't get.
Well, and that's kind of the same thing we did with the sequels too. But at this point, like, they had the opportunity to get that deep and they didn't. And that's what's sad. Bat Chang sent us a super chat earlier. I missed. Sorry about that. He says, yeah, why do current year politics matter in sci-fi shows? You can do current day politics. I think you're just being a little bit facetious or whatever, but you just got to find a way to do them where they're not preachy. Like, Orville does it amazing. Like, they know how to take a modern day politics and not throw it in your face, but also make you think, just like classic Trek used to. That would be one of my suggestions. And then bouncing off what you were saying earlier about Creed and stuff, I'd add Cobra Kai to that mix as well. Like, that's another one.
I always forget that. You're absolutely right. Cobra Kai and Creed are and it's funny because they're both, like, you know, fighting franchises or whatever.
And not only that, they're so closely tied together for many, many reasons. But yeah,
I've got to see Creed.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I'm not saying Creed is the end all be all of movies, but in terms of how it works with the Rocky franchise and how, you know, Ryan Coogler had a story to tell. He went to Sylvester Stallone and he directed Sylvester Stallone to an Academy Award nomination. And it has such respect, and it fits within the Rocky universe, as it were.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's amazing when you get something like that from filmmakers. And I think that's what everybody's looking for, is that kind of an experience that you're getting. You want the universe, like, we know what the world is like. We know that, like, one of the great, I was talking about this last night, to come back to like Game of Thrones, you know, the whole show is leading up to certain things. Like from the first episode of Thrones, they talk about the White Walkers, and you've watched as a viewer 8 seasons, and you know that the Night's King, you've seen that he has his generals, he has other undead that surround him. They're wearing armor. They have knowledge, like when they look at Jon Snow at Hardhome, and the Night King is like, yeah, I'm coming for you, dude. They like share a gaze. So there's clearly an intelligence. The Night's King, for whatever reason, has a purpose. He wants to do something. He takes out a dragon. He knows strategically how to do that, because he needs the dragon to take out the wall. So you're like, can't wait to find out what their end game is, because these are smart motherfuckers. They're smart villains. And so when you're waiting in season 8, you're like, I can't wait to find out the reveal. What are they doing? How do they tie into Bran? Why are they marching south? What is it they want? Nope. For 8 seasons, you're being set up for, you as a viewer are asking questions about the Night's King, because you've seen all of these things. They've shown you he's smart. They've shown you he has a council of people that are behind him. They're wearing armor, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end, nope, none of it is answered. It all is ended with what? You're like, why have we watched these characters? Why have we watched this threat for 8 years progress, or almost 10 years? And at the end, none of it mattered. So why? And this is what I don't like about modern storytelling. That is not if you wrote this story in an English composition class, and the teacher said, wait a minute, I've watched 8 seasons of this, and you've set up these villains to have a reason to do what they're doing, and they don't. There's no reason, and they're just vanquished. Well, why are they in the story at all then? And I think that's what's happened to a lot of modern fantasy television. That the people writing it, they don't think that way. They're not like, we don't have to pay it off. Well, you should pay it off. You have to know. And if you don't know, why are we watching your story? Because at the end of the day, you're just going to anger your audience, because your audience, you're drawing them in, you're pulling them along. And if they have no, how do you watch that? And I feel like Star Trek Discovery has been one episode after another where the writers don't know what they're talking about, and they tell us these stories that none of them ring true.
No, and I think that shows clearly, and we even learned that, like I said, from whole Jason Isaacs things, where he's like, they had no fucking clue what they're doing to my character. Like, it didn't even sound like they knew they were going to the mirror universe necessarily. Like,
no, that's what it kind of sounded like.
Yeah,
and I think he might have gotten in trouble for it, because he was really, really quick to.
Well, that's what I was saying, and I think that might be one of the reasons why they're going to go this route, because they can pre-edit it, just like their Comic-Con shit was pre-edited.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're on the panel now. You might as well just say this. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, guys.
He says, I'm sure
Hello,
we'll know
Greg.
all about these new characters and not a thing about over half the existing bridge crew. We already got that one. But welcome to the show. DC Titan says, with a Canadian $5, force healing wasn't the problem. It's been in the games. The problem with Rey doing it is she does it. Like everything else, it's just out of nowhere. Yeah, and I've had that conversation with lots of people where I brought up, the force healing is something I can understand, and they even at least make little baby Yoda have the thing where he's got to like take a 3-day nap. At least they give us that much. Rey just does it like out of nowhere. That's exactly my problem with it as well.
She's like, this is easy. Yeah.
Whoop, and then we lost Robert here.
Oh.
It was just his internet.
Hope it wasn't me.
I don't think so. He'll probably
triggered him.
You triggered him. Oh, there he is. We lost you and we got you back. Welcome back, Robert.
Wait, what?
And I don't want to go off in too much of a tangent, but to go back to Return of the Jedi, I think Lucas originally had like darker plans, and for whatever reasons we can speculate and even research, he changed them. I don't want to say at the last minute, and we can probably speculate on the reasons why he changed them, but I kind of would have liked to have seen that alternate version myself.
Yeah, because there was rumors, wasn't it? Not who am I thinking of? The writer.
It wasn't Kasdan, was it?
Yeah,
JW.
it was
Kasdan.
Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah, because he's like, they wanted to kill Han Solo. There was like supposed to be like some like maybe even Luke even turned to the dark side in one version they were talking about, and all this other business. And
we'll talk about that on some kind of
yeah, and I think
discussion.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll tell you why they didn't. Plastic. George Lucas wanted to sell plastic, and he flat out said dead characters don't sell toys.
Yeah.
And
that's one of the reasons I mentioned.
Robert's 110% correct, because as much as I love George Lucas, because that's going back to the whole imagination thing, because this is the same guy who told the same story that, I needed a character since Obi-Wan was gone that that was like the little rabbit at the side of the road that you meet, and he gives you all the magic and how to kill the dragon. That's what Yoda was. So he took that kind of an idea and concept and put it into this little creature, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now somebody else hears that nowadays, these modern writers, a lot of them, they would just write a little rabbit at the side of the road that gives you magic. Like they have no imagination.
Like, literally.
That's exactly right.
But then, like Robert said, though, I think Lucas lost sight of what Star Wars was all about to him, and that was tapping into that inner child. Not so much making a movie for kids, but tapping into that inner child that he saw, when watching those serials growing up and stuff on television, and that whole, how he felt, the charge. He just wanted to give that to people. Like it was more like can I manufacture that rush? And he wasn't so much worried about, selling toys or whether or not Ewoks were cool or not, or were going to work, or Jar Jar was the key to everything. It was just telling a cool story that, that resonated with him from when he was a child, that he knew could resonate with kids and adults alike. And I'm sure Robert agrees with me on that too. That's kind of where you were probably going with that anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things that people forget about George Lucas is he irrevocably changed the film business through technology. And what he was doing with his money was he was putting a lot of it into research and development, ILM, creating new effects technology. I mean, editorial technology. He was really pushing the limits of filmmaking, and that's what the reason he wanted to obviously have the money making apparatus that Star Wars represented was because all of what he was doing was expensive. And Photoshop was created by like John Knoll and people that worked at ILM, and there was things going on and they were really more so than the Star Wars movies. The technology that was being developed under the money that Star Wars was generating was immeasurable. The contributions to, and not just movie making, but to everything, all of our computer technology.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Pixar,
for the creative, all of that stuff was a direct result of how much money George Lucas was making, and he was funding all that basically himself.
Even modern video games owe a lot to George Lucas in that respect.
Oh my God, LucasArts. I mean, and people forget the stuff. Like, was it Monkey Island? Was that one of their early? Early games?
Like I just remember him in like 19. I may even be in the beginning documentary or episode 2 documentary somewhere in there where he's talking about literally what we've gotten to, and that is the technology they used on the Mandalorian. He's like, sooner or later we'll be able to do this in real time.
Yeah,
and it'll be like, because I've been checking out all these video games, and it's like they can do this in real time. We can do this in movies. It won't be for another 10-15 years, but we'll get there. Like he knew what he was doing. Like he had this.
Oh no. His contribution is you can't between what George Lucas was building in terms of infrastructure, and then James Cameron
and Edit Droid even alone. Too.
Oh yeah, and James Cameron would dream up stuff to push what Lucas had built even further. Mm-hmm. And it's astonishing. So you cannot deny what George Lucas was doing. I mean, he changed the world. He didn't just change cinema; he changed the world.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's pretty amazing to watch. Unfortunately, he also created this mythology that people love so much and expect so much of. I mean, when I was younger, it gave me so much. I saw things I'd never seen before, so I expected that subsequent Star Wars films would keep doing that. And maybe that was me putting an unfair burden on the movies, but expecting them to change my worldview every time they came out. And maybe that isn't the case. Maybe that's not fair.
I mean, one could realistically say, oh, you just grew out of them. But at the same time, it's like, no, I think you got a good point there, Robert. Because over the years, like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I loved Return of the Jedi, but you're right. I've had the discussion with several people, even right here on this panel about how basically all Return of the Jedi is shit until you get to that battle in the throne room, and that battle in the throne room is everything. You know, and there's so much going on there that I don't even think Lucas realized when he was writing it, because the whole point is Darth Vader wants to kill the Emperor and him and Luke, you know, to rise to power. Darth Vader stops Luke from killing the Emperor in that first blow. And nobody ever really stops to think about that. Like, basically, I say that whole last fight isn't really Vader versus Luke. It's Vader fighting for the soul of his son.
Yeah.
Like, at that moment, he knows, like, if he goes down that path, that's it. There's no going back. Yeah. And I think even Lucas kind of didn't even really realize that when he was writing it. But if you really watch that scene and think about it, because it's like, that scene should have been over in the first 2 seconds. It should have been over, right? And that maybe that's where that script came from, is maybe he did, and he went to the dark side, and that's what Kasdan was saying, was like, and then Leia was the one who had to save the day or whatever. But yeah, like, I mean, that's a very poignant scene that's overlooked in this, you know, huge hodgepodge of Ewoks and Jabba the Hutt and all that kind of stuff. You know, I totally get where you're coming from. And don't get me wrong, I love Jabba the Hutt just as much as the next guy, but let's face it, that the whole first 2/3 of Return of the Jedi are pointless. There's really no. They're to pick up loose ends from the last movie, and then kind of a lot like the Rise of Skywalker when you think about it.
Well, my most enjoyable thing about Return
but I don't want
of
to
the
take away
Jedi,
anybody who loves it, though. Yeah,
my most enjoyable thing about Return of the Jedi is the title. How much the title can mean have. Well, to me, it's got two different meanings, and I've said this on a previous stream, but it can mean. Do you think that Return of the Jedi is Anakin returning as a Jedi, or is it Luke returning and bringing back the Jedi? Like, it's the one title that actually has, to me, multiple meanings, and it doesn't matter. Anyone can be right, whichever way you think about it.
Absolutely. And I don't want to take anything away from anybody who loves it. Like I said, nobody's like, you know, in my eyes, if you love it, that's great, because I used to love it too. So, like, I mean, I still love it, but.
Empire is definitely the best movie.
But yeah, like I agree with Robert. Like, after Empire and Star Wars, it lost something, definitely.
Well, because you're expecting it to keep getting exponentially bigger. And what happens with Jedi is, okay, the threat is another Death Star, but you've already seen a Death Star blown up. So how much of a threat can it be? And what the real threat now is, after Empire, you know, if Luke were to join Vader, and the question remains that what if he does, that they could be a formidable force and the galaxy would be plunged into the ultimate darkness with the father and son. And you're expecting, like, and then you go and rescue Han Solo, and that's 20 minutes of the movie. And then
more than that, actually.
Luke goes back to meet Yoda, and there's some questions there. You're not advancing a story. The story you're out wanting to know is, what's going to happen to Luke's soul, and will Leia and will Han Solo be able to prevent it? And where are they going to be when this darkness goes down, when the shroud finally falls? And I think the problem with Jedi is it's very small in terms of the film. And then, of course, you go to Endor and you're dealing with the Ewoks, and it's like, no, I want to see the story get progressively bigger. We saw the Empire and AT-ATs and fleets of Star Destroyers and the Executor, and this is amazing. And now, you know, we want to see the home world. We want to see, where is the Emperor? Where is Coruscant should have been like a planet that's an entire city that covers a planet with thousands of Star Destroyers, and this center of the Empire, and you're in the den of the wolves and all of that. I mean, they could have gone that way, but they didn't. And that's what I feel is Jedi's greatest failing, is that it should have been epic, like biblically epic, like Ben-Hur epic, you know, or whatever. And you're basically going to hell. That our characters are now going to Hades. They're going to the underworld to confront Satan in his lair. And I wanted to see that, but no, you're up in the forest, and there's the Ewoks, and it's like, really? Now we're going to tell a Vietnam allegory?
Yeah.
When no, what we really should be doing is we're storming the beaches of fucking Normandy, and I want to see D-Day, And that's what Jedi. That's what I expected.
Pretty much what we saw at the end of Rise of Skywalker. A lot of that, not to that excess,
but that made sense. That wasn't dumb.
Yeah.
Just quickly going back to the Dagobah scene in Jedi. Do you think that was shoehorned in because there was so much controversy after Empire about is Vader really Luke's son, and they had to somehow shoehorn in this scene to verify that Vader is Luke's father. Sorry.
I absolutely think so. I think one of the things that people don't understand, George Lucas had no idea when Star Wars opened. He went to Hawaii with Steven Spielberg. He had no idea that Star Wars would become a phenomenon. He thought he'd made a failure. He had no idea. So he doesn't even imagine you're a guy. I made American Graffiti, and nobody wanted to make Star Wars, and and I made this movie, and it became like the world loved it. So suddenly you're in this position where you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. So I get Alan Dean Foster to write Splinter of the Mind's Eye in case I'm going to make a spinoff. I'll do that. Then he goes and he makes Empire, and that movie was equally well received, at least by the fan base, and critically, a lot of people liked it better than Star Wars. And then you've cemented a modern mythology that suddenly people are devoted to.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he's just a filmmaker. He was a nerdy guy from Modesto who liked cars and made American Graffiti and THX 1138. And suddenly the eyes of the planet Earth, are focused upon him. Every kid in the world has seen Star Wars. They love all these things. And Lucas is like, I don't, I'm just a guy from Modesto. I never wanted to be some guru. I just like movies, I
just want to make Howard the Duck.
But he was like this. He didn't ask for any of this. And he was not the kind of guy who ever wanted anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing what he was doing, and making films can be solitary once you get into the edit bay, and that's what he wanted. And now suddenly he's changed the planet Earth. He's literally infected the imaginations of everyone in the Western world and the rest of the world, for better or for worse.
Well, I always got to remind everybody that Star Wars was made on a bet anyway, kind of, because he had helped bankrupt Francis Ford Coppola's studio, and he was in an argument with him, Francis Ford Coppola, and his wife, and his wife basically said, it's just, you're a cold fish. You can't write characters that are relatable. He's like, well, I can get the audience to react. All you got to do is wring a cat's neck. And then Francis Ford Coppola got all pissed off, and he's like, why can't you just write a fucking comedy or a family movie like a normal person? So he's like, all right. And he went and wrote American Graffiti and came up with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
it's true. And I think that I don't envy anybody that creates something that becomes, fans, it's like a cult thing. Like, we like these things, and we're lifers. If you're a fan of Star Trek, I've been a fan since I was 5 years old. It hasn't gone away.
Mm-hmm.
You're never not going to be a fan. You like this stuff forever, and you keep coming back to it throughout your life. And the problem is, Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who are perfect examples. They've existed for a long time. And because people have grown up and lived with them, and they've become such a potent, imaginative force in the world, that how do you make more of that when once they've become money-making franchises, that becomes the primary concern is not one single individual creator trying to make another story. It's like, oh, this is now a franchise. We got to put it in theme parks, which means that the storytelling itself is compromised because we can't have it controversial. It has to appeal to everybody, and in doing that, that's the death of good storytelling.
Yeah, that's probably where the darker version of Jedi went out the window right there to answer that question. Jeffrey Turner, aka Jack Mega Jetty, a good friend of the channel, sends in $2, says Star Wars sequels should have been like Starfleet 5 Klingons.
Versus
Klingons. Gotcha.
Yeah, versus.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was
Love
V
Mega
or
Jetty, by the way.
Usually V is little V when you do versus, but yeah. Well, what do you guys think about that one? I don't know.
Well, it's in what, the Starfleet versus the Klingons in Discovery season 1?
Maybe.
Star Wars should have just been a continuation of the story. That's where they fell. That's where they fell short.
Yeah.
They thought that they needed to reinvent the wheel, and instead of actually moving forward, they reinvented the wheel and they failed big time.
No,
because you can't just slap a Star Wars label on it. Well, sorry, yes, you can slap a Star Wars label on it, but there's only so far that's going to go.
Yeah,
because it worked. It worked for the Force Awakens.
Yeah, well, I think
they slapped Star Wars on something that wasn't Star Wars.
Well, I think too, the people that are now the corporate interests, when Disney buys Star Wars, what they're buying is what they think they're buying is a label, a brand. Like if you're buying Calvin Klein jeans, or if you're buying Nike, you're buying a brand. So they're like, okay, they're thinking about Star Wars as an overarching brand, and they're like, okay, the brand has these elements. And I'm speaking from a corporate standpoint, they're looking at a spreadsheet like, here's what Star Wars has. And in their minds, they're like, well, we now need to reinvent the brand to appeal to our new customers that are kids now, and they're going to grow up with this brand, and we need to start them young. So let's just go back to the core tenets of what Star Wars was and retell the original Star Wars, because corporately, that's what they understand. No one said to them, like, well, they defeated the great evil the last time we saw our characters. At the end of episode 6, the Empire was toppled. The Emperor was dead. Vader confronted Luke. He lost. Vader respected his dad. And now 30 years later, you guys are just saying that there's another evil. The galaxy has been reset to where it goes. Without understanding that Star Wars fans have had in games and in comics and all kinds of things, they've already had all of these stories told about the 30 years after Return of the Jedi. And so there's already a whole mythology there. But from a corporate standpoint, they're like, well, none of that matters. It's not on screen. That's not what we bought. So then they're like, just reset it. And if you're a fan, if you're an astute watcher of stories, the first thing you ask yourself is, well, wait a minute. Wait, when we left our characters, they won. And now the next movie, there's the First Order. There's Han Solo has a kid that's turned into a bad man. Like, you've reset the galaxy, but any astute watcher is going to be like, how did this happen?
Yeah, how did we get here?
Yeah, this is not right. This is not so the very story they're telling. I mean, seeing the Millennium Falcon can only go so far, but you're asking yourself, why would our heroes allow the First Order to arise in the first place, which makes them, from the get-go, douchebags, because they're ineffectual heroes. They toppled the galaxy, but then what, do they abandon their post? I mean, Han Solo left Leia, and they have a son that turned to the dark side. Luke left. I mean, our characters that we've loved are assholes. And that's how they started that new franchise, and it never recovered.
The thing is, though, about like trying to pander to get those new audience members, the new kids and stuff like that. This is the thing that I don't understand when they're sitting there in their corporate offices, however you want to say it. How do they think that it got this far? I mean, I was born the year Return of the Jedi came out. Like, I was never there for that. I was there for the prequels, and as bad as some moments of them are, I enjoyed them, and it still told a cohesive story. And then, going on to my nieces and nephews. My nephew loves Star Wars. He's 10 years old, but he doesn't enjoy the newer stuff. I don't understand. That's what I don't get about the whole thing.
That's probably that's probably a perfect launch pad to our next story, actually. And RFR sends a New Zealand $5, says, curse you for cutting into my Witcher 3 playtime. I get 1 day a week, damn it. Saying that, I love you all. Keep up with a good fight, and Doomcock was right. Well, you can still play while you watch us, can't you?
Yeah.
Or listen to us.
Yeah.
Alan Bennett says it's classified. STD bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, you can't talk about Discovery. It's classified. But speaking how we got one more super chat here. Matt G says episode 9 was made to order. Mystery Science 3000. I wouldn't be surprised if future generations it does wind up there. Adam Wolford then says, Robert, are you saying that there isn't 900-page books, games, and comics? It's almost like they couldn't turn any of those books into movies. Hollywood does it all the time, poorly though. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to tie-in properties, they don't. Anybody at the corporate level and filmmakers, they don't see those as even being real. It's so funny to me that because they're marketing tie-ins, it's like all the Star Wars novels. I'm a huge Star Trek novel fan. I've been collecting it since I was a kid, and I'm like, why don't they ever look to the novels? They've created whole new series in novel form that are really good, written by people that have spent inordinate amounts of time thinking about the Star Trek universe, but everyone is looked down upon. They don't look at that as being legit at all. Hollywood are like, the people that are writing Star Wars novels, come on, what do they have to offer? I'm a screenwriter. I make $200 million movies.
Why would I? Novels, please.
Well, yeah, and it's very odd because a story is a story.
Yeah.
And it's why not look? I've never understood that. I mean, there's like 50 great Star Trek novels that could be adapted into great movies, but they'll never do that. And the funny thing is the stories they're right there.
Yeah, why?
And you look at somebody like Kevin Feige, he doesn't directly necessarily adapt stories, but it's like, oh, Ed Brubaker did his Winter Soldier run. That was an incredible run of Captain America comics. And by the way, it really was. And they're like, let's incorporate that into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the heavy lifting of creating a new character and creating motivations for Cap and all of it was already in the story. Yeah. So we look at that, you read Brubaker's run, and you're not going to do an exact translation, but everything you need to make an effective movie is in that comic book. And Kevin Feige and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not afraid to go, let's go look at that. Because we've already got the basis of it. We can change it the way we want to and caress it into our universe, but we take the inspiration out of the very material that began Marvel Comics in the first place, which is the comics. And it's so funny to me that Star Trek and Star Wars have so much ancillary material that you can draw from, so many great ideas, and they never go there. And I'm like, why not? It's already done for you.
Well, speaking of great ideas that went nowhere,
By the way, I have to jump. I was.
Oh,
just
you
called.
do?
Yeah, I apologize.
Oh shoot. Okay, because we're jumping onto the John Boyega story, but all right. Take care, Robert. We always love having you on here. It's always a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll get to talk to you again real soon. Check out the Burn Network, folks, if you haven't. Is there anything else you want to plug quick before you go?
No, I just love that you guys let me rant and mouth off. So I appreciate it. I get to exercise my demons here, and I thank you for that.
Oh no, that's our pleasure. Trust me.
And it was great meeting all you new folks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine.
You too.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we'll talk soon.
And I'll have to
Becca,
pick
go.
Script's brain too now. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, so jumping into this John Boyega business. Rob, are you still awake over there? Or are you watching porn?
No, I'm still awake.
All right. Chief Cook sends in $4.99, says all these SJW things happen to both Star Wars and Star Trek franchise. Will it also affect the Battlestar Galactica reboots? Mecca, that's a little bit more your dominion, isn't it?
Well, didn't they cancel the new one?
I'm not sure on that. I haven't kept up with that.
I thought they did, because wasn't it supposed to be on the Peacock thing or something? But I'm gonna say they'll do it wrong, because Battlestar Galactica already like gender swapped and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, Boomer, Starbuck. But that one was okay because it kind of made sense to the way they were telling the new story, and it was such a departure from the kind of campy sort of original show.
I had no problem with it at all.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It was done well. Well, you also had Ronald D. Moore working on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, Dune. Yes. We've all seen the little teaser for the teaser for the teaser. Not impressed, but we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. I know Rob hates talking about that, but Rob, John Boyega, we dropped this story earlier today, kind of blows the lid off. I mean, we all knew this stuff, but like, this is it. Like, this is kind of like the everybody's been going off for like how long now about when's the lid gonna pop? When's the last shoe gonna drop? Who's gonna be the first one? Everybody's had their bets down on Boyega. He's pretty much thrown everybody at Disney under the fucking bus. And he's flat out said what we've been saying for the last 3 fucking years. Y'all a bunch of racist motherfuckers, and you're so racist you don't even realize how racist you are, that you're so racist that fuck you, I'm out. Like, he is just said every last thing that I'm sure Disney is freaking the fuck out right now about this whole goddamn thing. We can guarantee there will not be a Finn series.
Guaranteed.
He doesn't.
Wouldn't that be interesting though?
I wonder if he'd ever work for Disney again.
I doubt.
I doubt
I
it.
highly doubt it.
Don't Disney Plus me back in
yeah, he probably doesn't even want to work for Disney. They could throw money at him. He'd probably say no.
Oh, this whole thing was a big bitch slap to him. Like, I mean, like Robert was saying, they didn't have any original stories for this new movie. You have it right here in your face.
Yep.
You had one of the first times. I mean, I'm sure it may have been explored in other, avenues like comic books and shit like that. But the whole point is you have a character you introduced here who defects from the Empire, or the whatever First Order. And that's something that we never really explored on screen necessarily before, was this idea of, who is in these uniforms? What happens if you do grow a conscience and you realize that the people you're working for are nothing but murderous bastards? I mean, what would that entail? And what kind of things would you have to go through to get to a point where you're okay with yourself and, things like that, especially considering if you've had to do horrific things like some stormtroopers have. Now we know in Finn's case, he hadn't done anything to that point, but it must have been bad enough to where after he lost his friend or whatever in that scene, because we never get to explore it. Yeah. I mean, there's so much that's set up that has never paid off, and he totally throws Rian Johnson under the bus big time here.
Oh, good.
Yes, he does.
Okay, Rob, you got this up, or?
Yeah, the GQ.
Now we're gonna have to bounce around a bit because it gets really heavy duty into politics.
Okay.
There was some specific. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna bring up our Andre's editorial from earlier, because he has like the main points I wanted to cover anyway. So basically, after going through his experience with stylists, hairdressers who evidently had little experience and sensitivity with black people, which is something we've heard out of a lot of black people in Hollywood, which is funny. Or I shouldn't say funny so much as ironic or whatever, considering how woke they are. Boyega was asked how he reflects on his involvement with Star Wars and the way the new trilogy has concluded, to which he replied, "It's so difficult to maneuver. You get yourself involved in projects and you're not necessarily going to like everything." But, which is saying he didn't like the movies. What I would say to Disney is, do not bring out a black character, market them to be much more important in the franchise than they are, and have them be pushed to the side. It's not good. I'll say it straight up.
Well, that's going to be exactly what happens with not the binars, the non-binary binars, or whatever they are. Thing 1 and Thing 2 on Star Trek.
And then Boyega went on to say, like, you guys knew what to do with Daisy Ridley. You knew what to do with Adam Driver. You knew what to do with these other people. But when it came to Kelly Marie Tran, when it came to John Boyega, fuck all. So what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say is, I enjoyed being part of it. It was a great experience. No. I'll take that deal when it's a great experience. He just threw them way the fuck out. They gave all the nuance to Adam Driver, all the nuance to Daisy Ridley, and that's even
I don't even think it.
No nuance.
There was no real nuance.
Yeah, he's like, let's be honest. Adam knows this. Daisy knows this. Everybody knows this, meaning us. I'm not exposing anything. Motherfucking John Boyega's Phantom Menace now officially, folks. I think it's safe to say. I don't know if there's any way he could say it better than he has about these people. Rob, did you get to watch Andre's editorial earlier?
Actually, I did not.
So this is the first time you're hearing this shit, ain't it?
What was that?
So this is the first time you're hearing this shit, ain't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I did a video on it, so you probably heard me yelling about it earlier. But yeah, I think we all knew that John Boyega was going to be like the first one to really, really throw them under the bus.
He was, he's like, yeah, exactly. He's got the right to be most. He was the guy that the first face you see in the new trailer. Remember that new trailer they did when there was no. Yeah.
Yeah, you see him with the lightsaber. How awesome was that?
They really promoted the hell out of him in those first trailers and in all those TV spots.
Absolutely.
That little fight with Kylo at the end in the forest in the snow. And you're like, this dude's gonna be a fucking Jedi, I guarantee. Then you get in there like, oh no, he's a bumbling idiot. Instead.
But even his reaction to the trailer, to that first trailer, he was so excited, and I don't know if you've all seen that, but really he thought something completely different was happening when he came into Star Wars.
We all did as well.
Well, he probably knew the truth, and that was that JJ wanted him to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
And he even says not to throw JJ under the bus, because that's the other part. He says, don't blame my boy JJ. Where is it here? He goes, everybody needs to leave my boy alone. He wasn't even supposed to come back and try and save your shit.
I'm gonna be the
shots
fired. I'm gonna be a little bit of the cynic and say that JJ's with Warner Brothers now, and he already pissed off one of the 3 major studios, so maybe he doesn't want to piss off Warner Brothers too.
Well,
he burnt the bridge
no,
with
he's
Disney.
saying he's saying lay off JJ. Like JJ did nothing wrong, is what he's trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, if he went after JJ and JJ works for WB now, and he's
that's a great point. But I think I'm not even trying to stick up for JJ. I just think like JJ set you up with every fucking thing you need to make this character as badass as he looks on this fucking screen here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
God, I know, right?
And what you did to him, and that's what he was bitching about, and rightfully so in this article, is like, you know, they fucking took my character and they did nothing with him. And fuck all was literally what he said. The words "fuck all."
Yeah.
He did nothing in TLJ. They went on
nothing.
A side plot that went fucking nowhere, just to get him to fight Captain Phasma again, I guess.
Not only they went nowhere, it got half the rebellion killed.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of the bad guy.
And they forget about the kids on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the contrast, go back to his trailer reaction where he jumps over the couch.
Yeah.
Look at that guy then and look at him now. Okay. Only Ryan Johnson can do that.
JJ did technically make him a space janitor, but let's be clear. He said he worked in sanitation. Okay, it was as a joke in a line, but he also had moved to the other side. Wasn't it Ryan, though, who, like, they got more into the whole point, like, basically making it sound like that's basically what he was as a glorified janitor?
Yeah.
I'm off that area. I knew where it is.
I was going to say, I can't remember. It's been a little while since I've seen The Last Jedi, but I think they made it worse, is my point.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, you turned a one-off jokey line into his whole backstory.
It was so bad.
Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty, sends in $2. Says files are drawn to Disney like they are to or flies are drawn to Disney like they're two politicians. Flies to shit, yes, indeed.
That janitor thing was the only thing Ryan didn't subvert our expectations on, I guess.
Right. Well, not only that, he basically turned him into like almost a coward because he's like, oh, I gotta go save Ray, and it's like, dude, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that business because it's not his fault. We've all known this from the start. It's not his fault. We could tell from the start. He's been pissed about this, that this is not something he's wanted. And he's been pretty much the most vocal to this point. And I really don't think he's worried about being Disney Plus, as Mecca said.
Do you think this is going to be the catalyst for more people to come out and talk about their bad experiences with Star Wars?
Yes. But it all depends on the NDAs. See, he doesn't give a fuck. I think he's reached a point where you know what he's learned? And I hate to say it this way, but he's using the fact that he's black to his advantage. Because he knows they're not going to fucking do nothing about it. Not right now.
But do you think he could also be thinking like, well, the fans matter more than whatever these guys want to say?
That's part of it, but did you hear his speech though at the BLM thing or whatever?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you're right.
Like he's like, I don't give a fuck about my career. I mean, he may have been putting on a good show there, but he may also meant it at that point. I mean, dude's probably made enough money he don't really need to work. If he's smart and he ain't spent a bunch of his money, dude probably never has to work for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
he could probably live off of residuals and what he's made off of Star Wars so far. Because I know Daisy Ridley did okay, so he probably did all right too. So. You know, the last thing he needs to go is out there and say, oh, yeah, the white lady made more money than I did, even on top of it, you know.
Oh, God.
Adam Wolford sent $5, says John had a better character in Pacific Rim Uprising than his character in Star Wars. I haven't seen that yet, but I have it. But I'm going to take your word for it on that one, even though I haven't heard too much good things about that movie. I can imagine, though, at least it was a more original idea, and you're not going to bring somebody like that in just to fucking, you know, waste them. I mean, John Boyega is not a shitty actor. That was why I was actually, I mean, I never knew who Daisy Ridley was when I first saw Star Wars. Never knew Adam Driver from anybody else. But I knew John Boyega because he was in the Attack the Block.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know this kid can act. So I'm like, I was looking forward to him being a major part of this movie. And then it was like, okay, he is kind of in the first film. It's like, now we get to see where he grows from there. And then he just, like he says, they do fuck all with him. And then JJ at the last minute gives him like, oh, I got Jedi fifis.
It's so funny though, because there's no other real character at any development either. It's like he was pushed to the side, yes, but like even the characters that we saw on screen weren't getting any development. There was nothing.
Oh, and he
them.
also
like,
brought up Kelly Marie Tran, and that was another prime example. She was somebody who also got wasted in that, not in a good way. Like she got drunk, but like she was just wasted as a character.
Yeah,
I mean, they legitimately made her the Jar Jar of this fucking trilogy, and how hard is that with all the crap that's in it? I mean,
and then they introduced new characters into the Rise of Skywalker that they could have given lines to her and given her at least some more.
And then they cut her ass out in The Last Jedi. I think that was another fuck you to Rian Johnson. So I think Kelly Marie Tran just got the brunt of that one. Like I've brought this up a few times. The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker are the world's most expensive Twitter fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Yeah. But speaking of character, Oscar Isaac's character, Poe, he got a backstory that was shit.
Oh,
like none of the characters got a good story,
and it obviously changed.
It contradicted from the comics.
It did, yeah. They contradict what they wrote in their own canon.
Well, the Admiral Gender Studies crap is what really hurt. Like it really destroyed Poe in the second film in Last Jedi, because here she's just talking down to him. Like, okay, do you need his balls too while you're at it?
Yeah.
Well, like Sandra says, Oscar's next. I don't think Oscar's going to say anything because Oscar actually has a career to worry about. He actually had a career before Star Wars. He's probably been the one who's been the most diplomatic and
Oscar's the only
playing the ball.
Oscar's the only guy actually doing shit. I mean, and he knows he's professional enough to know not to stir the pot.
Mm-hmm.
He may not like it, but yeah.
He wants to work for Disney Studios.
Yeah,
not on Star Wars, but some other property down the line.
Mm-hmm. John Boyega is just done with it. He's saying, I'm throwing a match behind me on my way out the door."
He's basically blowing the lid off of Disney, folks. Like, this is it. Like, this is the moment, like, the Phantom Menace has been waiting for. And that's what I wrote earlier on Twitter, too. It's like, we've been right all this fucking time. And this is the proof we've needed. I mean, it's not like we weren't aware of it. And he even says it. Y'all know it. But we can finally say it. Like, it's about time. DCB Titan sends in Canadian $5, says, "This is funny to see this discussion of this article on r/movies. I think we now know Roundhead's read it handle or somebody is riding his rooster hard." I don't get on that crap, so I don't know much about it. And contrary to many people's beliefs out there, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I mean, this is basically showing what we've been saying all this time. By all this it's the same thing with Star Trek. All this grandstanding bullshit. You're nothing but a bunch of racist bastards. And actually, we saw it in Star Trek first with Walter Mosley, when he flat out fucking basically threw them under the bus. But he didn't actually throw them under the bus because he had the class to not like fucking say where he got fired from. The dumbasses have come out and took responsibility for it in so many words by trying to throw him under the bus and made themselves look bad. And that's the thing. Disney, I don't think they're going to say a fucking word because they know, and Bob Iger's smart enough, I think, to know that anything they do say right now is just going to get turned against them. It's a no-win scenario in this situation. It's a Kobayashi Maru.
I think a good lesson for Disney and Hollywood in general is like, be careful about casting your tokens and your human shields because eventually they're going to realize they're human shields and they're not going to like it.
Operation Human Shield.
Yeah.
Is it bad for me to say I want them to try and respond to this? Like,
I would love
because I want to see the back and forth themselves. I just want to see them try. That'd be awesome.
Please, John, write a book.
Yes.
And the hilarious thing about this article, I read most of it earlier today, and I've been on social media and seen responses, is that, our community is embracing some of what he's saying, like we're talking about now, but the SJWs are too. They're latching on to all the dog shit political stuff he's saying in here that we probably don't agree with, most of us. So it's just hilarious how they're spurging out to the point where, this is such a great article. They're not really seeing the important and profound part of it and what he's revealing about that company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's because South Park has known this shit from the start. They have seen it years in advance.
Yep.
Trey and Matt, you guys are the modern day Nostradamus.
They're prophets.
Yeah, they are.
Yep. That's the absolute truth. And even old school Simpsons too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're calling Disney for its evil bullshit and bending over to China and all that shit.
Yeah.
They're not people, they're hippies.
And the only thing that Daisy Ridley comes out and says is she can't find work when she's getting plenty of work in a time where we've got a global shutdown. And I don't understand what she's really talking about, to be honest.
Speaking of, that gets us back to our original story from the fucking start. Let's leave on this anyway, because we've been going for almost 2 hours now, and I did have another engagement that I'm late for. But Robert Pattinson got the flu. He got the bat flu. Oh, shit, they had to shut down the production. Now how long is it going to get pushed back for? Because that'll
be a while now. Yeah.
This thing started off on a positive note for them because they were actually, I think, a little bit ahead of schedule. I wish Script was here because I think he knows this. But Rob, you may remember from some of our reporting, they were actually ahead of schedule before they got shut down, I believe. That's why they actually had enough footage to put together for a trailer. But like Andre said, that's like literally probably the only decent footage they have to this point to show to us. And he was surprised they showed us that much. Like we weren't expecting a trailer necessarily.
Maybe it's getting canceled, Tom, and they're just using this.
I think they spent way too much to cancel this bitch now. Like this is gonna happen come hell or high water, but
no,
it's gonna be pushed back.
I was joking. I wasn't.
Oh no! After that trailer, the buzz they got. Let's face it. No matter how you stand on this panel as far as Pattinson goes. They rocked the house with that fucking trailer. I can't deny that. I've never denied that. So this thing's going to happen come hell or high water. It's just going to get pushed back now. Rob, how much longer do you think it's going to get pushed back?
Oh, well, they got to stop everything for at least 2 weeks until he clears quarantine.
Yeah, because they're quarantining everybody because it wasn't just him that tested positive, I guess.
Yeah, it's like some of the crew came down, were diagnosed with it.
Yeah, a major part of the crew, I guess, including a big part of the cast, I guess. I'm sure it was more than him, but...
Yeah, they got to send everybody home. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, they can't send anybody home. They got to quarantine everybody.
Well, that's what I. But yeah, this is at least 2 weeks. They're gonna have to push everything back, and they're gonna have to, once everybody comes back, they're gonna test everybody on a regular basis. I mean, if they're not already tested.
Well, let's look at the bigger picture here, and then I'll let everybody else kind of chime in and give their thoughts real quick. But like the bigger picture here, is this kind of like indicative of what we're going to see happening to every goddamn production that tries to start up right now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
And
everything.
The TV networks are scared to death right now because they were really hoping that they would be able to catch up and get some episodes of the scripted shows ready.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're going, oh, we're not going to have shit to air in November.
That's why Star Trek Discovery is on CBS this fall, folks.
Did they have an announcement?
Yeah, that's 1 hour.
They didn't have a date announced for this movie, did they?
Originally, let me see what they said originally.
It was October 2021. I don't know if they had an actual date, but I mean, it was October 2021.
Okay.
Originally, I think it was supposed to be summer summer next year.
Yeah, originally,
they pushed it to October. It's still stated for October. Now, then again, like Rob said, this is only 2 weeks at this point. So they could still make that October date real easy because Batman's not like Superman or Iron Man where you got a shit ton of CGI. And we can tell from the trailer this is going to be a lot of real world kind of stuff. They, we got stunts and all that kind of stuff. So my guess is as long as they can get this fucker filmed and in the can, then they're good to go. Like, that's the thing. Like, this movie shouldn't take too long. And this is why I've said time and time again, why the fuck do they keep giving us Batman movies? Just make a Batman series in the vein of the Batman animated TV series. Everybody in the fucking world would love it. It would be the #1 TV show in the world of everything, and everybody be happy because Batman is the easiest fucking character to translate to television, and it works, and you can still do it and not have to and do it on the cheap, and it still works because most of the characters are just guys in makeup and masks. It's not like you have fanciful people flying. You don't have shit shooting out of people's hands. You know, you don't have an iron suit. You have or a big green hulking guy. You know, once in a while you might have a couple of characters that might have to, like Killer Croc. But even that, they got away with decent makeup enough in Suicide Squad, decent enough that it got nominated for a fucking Oscar. I don't know why, but
and almost endless fucking stories, you know.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it lends itself. It's the detective. You just basically use a procedural drama and put it into Batman. That's all you do.
With one rule: if you've if you've written for the CW, you
Stay the
can't
fuck
write
away
this
from
one.
Get the fuck away from it. Yeah,
You're banned.
You're not
Go
allowed.
away. Or Kurtzman Trek. Stay away.
Or
If
Grey's
you've
Anatomy.
worked on Gilmore Girls and or
Yeah.
what's one of the other shows, Rob, that always comes up in those besides Gilmore Girls?
Girls,
Gossip
freaking
Girl, right?
Gossip
Gossip
Girl.
Yeah.
Riverdale.
Riverdale.
If it has girl in the name or it was on the CW, there you go.
Yeah.
Those shows always
That's a good-
suck.
That's a good rule.
And who wouldn't want to write and direct these? I mean, you'd have people like Kevin. I mean,
Oh.
no, Kevin.
They'd all be
Smith.
I
lining
want
up
to work
out
on
the
a
door for
Batman
this.
show.
You'd
That
have
would be
everybody from.
Yeah. Cry.
You'd even have everybody on there wanting to be on these.
freaking
doing an
villain of the
episode.
week. Come on, you get
Exactly.
some big name guest star, like a
Mhm.
or not like big name, but somebody who was big name like 10 years ago. You're like, oh, I haven't seen that person in forever. What happened?
It's
to
not
them?
like Batman's rogues gallery is small or anything. I mean, they have
Exactly.
massive amount of people
Yeah.
to pull from. Just really, really obscure villains too. They could pull.
Oh.
Well, that's the thing
Yeah,
is you
and
have
then
like
don't kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
that's the thing. Just like I mean, that was the problem with Gotham because the first season or so wasn't that bad. It's like the only thing this is missing is that it's not a Batman show.
Yes.
Because I mean, this is what you would have is you'd love to see like, okay, the Riddler is always a background character. He's rising to his power in Gotham as Batman's rising through the rank, you know, doing his thing. The Joker is always this kind of prominent role. The Riddler is always a prominent role. They're not always necessarily the villain of the week, but they're always around. And then
Or
that's
just
when you
remake the 60s show.
kind of, but just serious. And that's why I say
Yeah.
the Batman
Upgrade.
No,
animated
why not make
series.
it cheesy and funny? Why not make it, you know, why not bring back the bright colors and why not bring back the fun of it? Because I'm so tired of this dark and dreary shit. I'm so
that's
tired
going
of being
to
miserable and
Batman.
depressed.
but I mean, Batman can be a little dark. I don't have a problem with that, but it's like just the point of, you know, it's not that hard to do. Like this lends itself to an HBO Max series so easy.
Yeah.
Even if you go a little hard edged, because that's where I can handle Batman being a little more hard edged. I know Mecca loves the 60s series because she loves the campiness and all
I
that
agree with people in the
stuff.
chat too. Keep Greg Berlanti away from it as well.
Yeah, keep Greg Berlanti
Jeez.
the fuck
Oh,
away
yes.
from it.
Yes.
But no, you're right, Mecca. I mean, even if you go like, you could have like an older routed Joker, and you can actually finally get to have Mark Hamill play the Joker on screen or something.
Mhm.
You know, there's all kinds of things you could do with this. You could have a lot of fun.
Happy birthday, Batman!
Here you
Batman
go. I
Birdman.
gave you a coupon for parents. It's expired.
Alfred, give birth to Robin.
Now that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I've been to Arkham.
The city is safe now. I've punched a penguin into prison.
How does that work, Batboy?
It is just you and I. Clown versus Bat.
I don't get the combination. I'm glad you got COVID. Stay over there. The mask's on the wrong part of the face. That's why you got the COVID cough, you know. Look at Boy Blunder there. He's got nothing on. He's wearing tights.
Oh my god, you should write out a sketch of that.
You should.
Because I mean, instead of doing like a news video or something with just one line, just write out a sketch of it.
Batboy. I can't believe Batboy caught COVID.
Holy disinfect Batman.
You probably wore the mask on wrong.
He probably did. I mean, look what he did with his microwave.
I was about to say, look what he did to his microwave.
Jeez.
Because I ate a bat. I put
Probably
it in the
uses-
microwave.
Probably can't even use toilet
That's
paper
oven,
properly.
That's how
right?
this works, man.
It's just like an oven, right?
It
Yeah.
says oven.
It says microwave oven.
Yeah. It works like that. My tinfoil pan in there, man. It works.
I like crispy bat wings.
There's your
I think-
Batman, folks.
I think we can make a bunch of these and put them on a stick. Call it bat sticks.
It's just probably like, hey, I really love your mask.
They got
Do
a
you wanna
hole in
trade?
the bottom, perfect for the stick. Did you guys read that fucking article? He's like, yeah, I think pasta should be on the go.
Yes. Yeah, we did. I did read that
God.
article. God,
That's
that
him trying
was
to
so
think.
fucking weird.
I don't know what he really sounds like. I've watched like 10 or 15 minutes of fucking Twilight once. Literally, I've seen bits and pieces of them because, like, an ex I had, her daughter was like just so in love with Twilight. I'm like, whatever. So I bought her all 4 of them, real cheap. And she was watching them one day, and I just flat out, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, they're like, don't even start. It's like, no. I look at it this way: if I cared about a franchise this much, and they did this to my franchise, I'd be pissed. Well, of course, I think I cursed myself because that's what I've been living the last 5 years. But no, it's just like, this is cheap shit. They make billions of dollars. Where's the money? These movies should be fucking epic. They look like they were made on the CW, man. They're fucking... they're unwatchable, in my opinion. About as bad as fucking 50 Shades of Grey. How can you make a movie about bondage boring is beyond me. But
50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
She wrote it on her cell phone.
Yeah.
I wrote it on my cell phone.
You can fucking tell.
Bobcat Goldthwait was a guest villain as himself. I'm gonna burn this couch,
Perfect.
Batman. What the fuck you gonna do?
Perfect.
Ah! Anyway, I think it's kind of funny. Who would play Alfred, though? That'd be Sam Kinison.
Yes.
That would be interesting.
Hey! I didn't get the Batmobile ready for you to go and trash it!
Fucking kids!
Stephen Fry.
Say your
Oh,
Batman.
there you go.
Say it.
Stephen Fry.
Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh, yeah.
Who would Gilbert Gottfried play? I'm the Eggman.
Commissioner Gordon.
Welcome, Batman, to my egg layer. Get it? Egg layer. I fucking wrote that one.
He'd make him the Riddler.
Riddle me
God.
this, Batman. Where the fuck is my hemorrhoid medicine? I can't seem to find it. And my ass hurts. There's no joke, it just hurts. Oh, fucking A. All right, he played the Penguin. Gilbert Gottfried is Alfred? I don't know if that'd work.
No.
You know how hard it is to get blood stains out of leather? Can you try not to make them bleed on you so much next time? It's almost like you just rubbed their face all over the mask.
Don't hit him so hard.
No wonder you got the beer bug, idiot. All right. All right. Condiment King.
I'm okay with that one.
Oh, Dave Chappelle would have to be in it too. Who would Dave Chappelle be? Gosh.
Dave Chappelle would be... Dave Chappelle would be Commissioner Gordon?
You know, this phone's ringing off the goddamn hook all the damn time. I should be calling you. Quit calling me. That's what I got the damn bat signal for. What do you need a bat phone? You got a bat signal, bat phone. A little over excessive. The car? Oh, I ain't gonna say nothing about the car, but are you compensating for something? I know you guys want another bat cartoon. I've been so fucking busy.
Yeah. Looking forward to the next edition.
I will try to get one.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of this the other day. I'm like, I really got to get another bat cartoon done. I got to get that next Boneheads done too.
Who are you doing next? JJ, right? One in the
no,
polls?
Kathleen Kennedy. I think we're doing next. Aren't
Oh.
we? Or no, who we did? We did her already. JJ.
We
Yeah,
did JJ, yeah.
Awesome.
JJ. Yeah.
Wait.
It was a landslide in that poll that
Yeah.
you put out.
And I've been just like drawing a blank because Rob's got all the great lines, and I'm like, how do I back that up? So I got to work on that. But all right, folks, let's head on out of here. Check out these guys. Lost Jedi, you got your own channel?
Yes, I do. It's same as the name, Lost Jedi 22. Mainly doing Lower Decks reviews as of late, so just had one out this afternoon.
I'm sorry.
Actually, last episode wasn't as bad. It's the best one
He's
so
now
far.
a Lower
So
Decks fan.
yeah,
It's still bad.
Confirmed.
It's still bad, but it's better.
Well,
Eddie
they're not
Murphy is
fixing anything
Robin.
that's like the problem with the show is that they're still trying to pass off horrible characters as Star Trek.
Yeah,
They just forget
the
that these
problems.
people would have had this training already. So
Yeah.
It's the characters; they're not likable.
yeah.
So check out Greg on Lost Jedi 22 and Open Airlock Policy. Tim, tell us about your channel.
Yeah, I've got a channel. It's the name you see there, minus my name in parentheses. I started up a couple months ago, variety of topics, a lot of anti-SJW stuff and science fiction. I did a Doctor Who video a couple days ago. Collectibles, I have an extensive Star Wars collectible collection. That was kind of redundant. But yeah, just starting out, pretty fun every Saturday night. I am modding for these guys, and they're nice enough to have me on every so often on the Raging Geek Jedi Show, 11 o'clock Central every Saturday. So check it out.
Awesome.
And you're on there sometimes, Tom.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, he is.
And Raging Rhino, do you have your own channel as well, I assume?
Yes, I do. Come and check me out at Raging Rhino. I cover, at the moment, all I've been covering is Star Wars and how bad it's been. I've done a couple of streams with my Lego stuff. If you haven't seen, I'll quickly show you. I've got all this Star Wars
right.
Lego.
You do the Legos where you're putting them together.
Behind me, and I've also got my Ghostbusters Lego down here, which is pretty cool. But come and check me out. I'm currently doing a series of videos on Disney's Star Wars continuity and obviously how bad it is. So go and check those out. And I'm doing a stream tonight called Casual Rage on my channel. Tomorrow you can catch me on John Talks. Then tomorrow night you can catch me. This is all Australian time, so work it out. Tomorrow night you can catch me on the Full Aussie with Lethal Lightning, and then you can catch me with the Geek Blend.
That'll be our morning, but yeah.
Yes.
And speaking of the Geek Blend, that's where I hang out quite a bit here and there with Jeff and the gang. These hooligans here. Tell them a little bit about your channel, Jeff.
Saturday nights we do the Raging Geek Jedi Show. Myself, Raging Rhino, and Lost Jedi 22. We have guests on. We had Tom on a few times. We've had Tim on a few times. Lots of fun. We just talk about the pop culture stuff of the week. So I'll be talking about a lot of the stuff that you guys heard today. And I do on my channel. I do craft beer reviews. I do pop culture news. I do recommendation series for Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and now HBO Max once a month. And I do collectible videos as well. And there'll be a lot of stuff coming for October for Halloween stuff too. So check out my channel. Just past 500 subscribers.
Yeah, he loves Halloween probably more than I do. I'll give him that one, definitely. But no, if you want some really great conversation, sometimes it's Jeff's a real laid back host, but it can get pretty fiery at times. I don't want you to think it gets boring or nothing like that, but definitely check it out. I love hanging out with those guys. And of course, as always, check out Script Doctor and Robert My Brunette and Mecha Random 42. You got anything coming up tonight or tomorrow morning?
I'm working on the Lower Decks review. It's a doozy. What else? I've been doing game streams in the evenings and probably going to be doing something tonight or tomorrow or this weekend or something for sure. I upload something, at least something every single day. So check your bells.
There you go. Make sure you're still subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, head on over there and
on the road to 60K. That's when I'll be a real YouTuber.
Nice.
That's the goal she set first. Yep. There you go.
Well, that's actually, I worked out that's when I found Midnight's Edge for the first time was around 60K. You guys were around 60K on the main channel. And the whole High Council, the original members were all around 60K. So that's just kind of been the magic number in the back of my head.
I'm close to 500 subs.
And
yes, you are.
Raging Rhino too.
Yes, you are.
That's kind of hard to believe because you're like everywhere too, like me, Raging Rhino. You're like everywhere. But check out all these fine folks. And Rob, he's got a YouTube channel as well, right?
That's right, Robot Shlomo.
And why haven't you monetized it yet?
I don't, because I've been doing shit over here.
I don't believe you.
I've been telling you to monetize it for like 2 years now, dude.
That's right, yeah.
You're like, no.
Well, I'm not going to, ever. Even if there's a fire.
It's free run money, Rob.
I know, it's like you telling him.
Yes. And lots of money.
play.
I rarely get to use that one.
I love that.
That's good. Yeah, I like that one.
Great stuff.
All right, folks, check out everybody here. We want to thank you for hanging out. Maybe we'll do something this weekend. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a gumption to do some MEAD radio later. Who fucking knows?
Sweet.
I have not slept all week. I've been working my butt off. I feel like Mark Hamill does right here. We don't have any music, so I just got to give us all. I think we earned a puppy. We haven't named our other puppy yet, but I've got a couple puppies coming. We had a maximum effort show here tonight, though, folks. I didn't even expect Rob and Mecca to show up. Full disclosure, that's why we kind of had such a high, loaded panel. I didn't know those two were going to be here all week, so. But no, that's cool. I'm glad they showed up. That's fine. I didn't expect them to be here. Oh, we got Ords in the chat and everything showed up at the last minute.
Thanks, guys, for having us.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I always have a great time hanging out with you guys over there, and always have a great time hanging out with you guys in the chat here. Always appreciated when you guys can stop by, hit that like button, hit that share button. That always helps as well. Even if you can't send us a super chat, that helps every little bit. We don't have any music to go out on, so we're just going to go out on a little bit of the
PC load letter. What the fuck does that mean?
You're fired. You're unfired. I need you there.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.